Okay, I need to know if people can hear me, so I'll need your feedback immediately. Alright, let's get started. Let's make certain we're connecting. Says excellent connection, so I expect some visual connection there in a minute. Alright, by visual I mean being able to see my own thumbnail embedded in Livestream. Alright then, people, now I need your feedback to tell me if I am audible. And the quality of my sound. Need feedback on the quality of my sound as well. We're going to do a little renewal here. See how things are functioning. Check into the big screen, see if I can hear myself. Tell me if okay, so I can hear myself. Everybody hit those upvotes. We need your upvotes immediately because, of course, as soon as we start transmission, we're hit with downvotes, and it takes about an hour or two for YouTube to filter those out. These are Autobots. Fortunately, our enemy is cheap as fuck, and he purchases cheap Autobots, and so these aren't like permanent downvotes. They're like downvotes that YouTube filters out, but it takes a little while, and they succeed in their original purpose in that they keep us off of Livestream. Well, they keep us off of searches. The Livestream, of course, they keep us off of by hitting my modem. So, as our dear man, Mr. Nemo Albano, has said, they DDoS, Distributed Denial of Service Attack. Good term for it, and if I can get anybody on in a few minutes to confirm whether or not you hear me, then I can keep going with the rest of the monologue. So, might try to start a call among these different people and see if I can bring them on for a few seconds just to help me see if we can get on the, shall we say, back into action. I guess Aristides is probably out. Let's see if we could get our man Nemo out here. Okay. See if he responds. And are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Like you said, it was a DDoS, and it took me out completely. I was completely offline. So what we're going to just...
Can you call Michelle in? Because I left her while she was in the middle of saying something. Sorry.
Oh, sure. Yeah, by all means, we can do that. Let me see if I can bring her on. Then I'll leave you to talk for just a second together while I just, rinse my eye out and then get back to work. Let me see if I can find Michelle here. Here we are. And then I'll... all right, we're going to press the add button. And both of you finalize whatever she was saying when we got knocked off. So you can take a look at our last video to find out where you got knocked off, and you could just finalize, sum up everything you were saying there.
Sorry about that, Michelle.
Yeah, so Michelle, you're back, and, so I want you to know that you were knocked off. We were all knocked off because the live stream effectively stopped with the... let's take a look at the last transmission. It effectively stopped at 8 hours, 21 minutes, and 45 seconds in. So at that time, you were basically talking about potential for wards or tokens, just objects of power. Yeah,
she was telling me something personal. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you want to continue what you're saying.
Well, understand, if you're saying something personal, Nemo, it's going to be on record now for everyone to hear for eternity. So if you're okay with that, you can finish what you were saying to Nemo. I'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm going to go mute, and then I'll, when we sum up with these two wonderful people, I'm going to go straight into monologue. So my love to both of you. Both of you got this. And remember, you are live. We are streaming.
Yeah.
People are hearing what you're saying. Okay.
I never say anything on podcast that I
understood.
I wouldn't want the world to hear, even if it seems personal.
Got it. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Both of you got this, and everybody upvotes from every IP address you've got.
Yes.
Thank you all so much, and I'm going mute.
Do you want to continue with what we were saying or change the subject?
I think we could probably wrap it up. I mean, I forgot what my last sentence was. But
you
I
don't want to
think
talk about that other individual. Okay.
What other individual? Which?
Like we were telling about one of your followers who died.
Yeah, the wrestler.
Did you find out his name?
Oh, I haven't looked it up yet.
All right.
But I believe it was 2010. Let me see.
Was he like full-on affiliated with WWE? Like, do you know his character name?
I don't. I'm gonna Google him right now.
Okay. Just a big guy with ginger hair from Australia.
Well, I hate to say that that's how I remember him right now, but he had a huge mustache, like a
Okay.
Like a handlebar mustache.
Right.
And even his uniform was a throwback from a long time ago, because that was his persona.
Yeah, I stopped watching wrestling around 2007, so I wouldn't know much of the newer wrestlers at that time.
It was very interesting that was that I was contacted to help him. Okay, look at it. Pro wrestlers, Australian.
Yeah, I'm posting the link to Doug's live stream on Twitter. Hopefully they'll get some views in. Everybody that's listening, please thumbs up. And share the link to any friends that might be interested in listening and watching the stream. Can anyone give us feedback if they can hear us fine too in the YouTube chat? Trying to cover for Doug while he's AFK, quickly doing something. Remember to donate to Douglas, buy his books on Amazon, download his content, re-upload his content on many platforms as possible. Yeah, Douglas, just for the listeners, Douglas recently got disconnected, most likely from a DDoS attack. For those who don't know what a DDoS attack is distributed denial of service, which is a cybercrime. It's a criminal offense in which the attacker floods the server with internet traffic to prevent users from accessing connected online services and sites. You haven't found his name?
Okay.
Nemo,
okay.
I'm going to have to go through these and check a couple of them.
Okay.
Yep.
So
there's one that
I just inform the listeners that you got DDoS attacked, and donate, buy your books, and thumbs up, and share the links.
God bless you. Thank you so very much. That's profoundly appreciated. So, honey, anything that you want to give out, or or if you want to sum up now, go ahead. Take your time. But take your time. Make it. But sum it up, because I'm gonna go into monologue.
I believe that my PayPal is M Saldana.
Okay. M Saldana. Okay, let me repeat that so people can, because your voice is a little husky right now. So it's M Saldana, SALDANA, and M Saldana, MSALDANA. Numbers, honey. M Saldana.
798, I believe. It's all lowercase.
Okay. Gotta be something else.
Looking back in to check and make
sure. Sure. Damn, your voice is husky now. Holy shit. What happened in the interval while I was offline?
my phone died and I'm tired.
Oh. Holy shit. Damn. Seems like they. So they whacked your phone, or it just died?
No,
Battery?
the battery died.
Okay.
It's a good husky or a bad husky or what?
Oh, your voice is always sexy. Really, you'd be better off just
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
phone sex.
Okay, I didn't know that, but thank you for telling me. Wow,
You just
didn't
sound
know.
tired.
Yeah.
What's that?
You just sound tired, that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Just
I-
weary. Yeah. Well, you sound wiped out. But matter of fact, yeah, did you find
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Here it is, paypal.me/msaldana,
Okay.
SALDANA 798.
Okay. Now, you mean / not backslash, right?
Oh, / yes, /
Thank you. So it's paypal.me/msaldana
798.
798. Thank you. The significance of the numbers, please.
I don't know. They gave it to me.
You're kidding. Jesus Christ. There must be 798 of you out there. All right. So, tell you what, now that we've got
Says
that...
I joined in 2012.
I'm sorry, what?
I joined.
In 2012. Okay.
Yeah.
So do me a favor. I'm just gonna make certain that I'm set to go for a little bit. So I'm gonna have both of you talk again for just a few minutes. I'm gonna go mute for a few minutes, just make certain everything around me is settled after the cyber attack. And so as you can imagine, I had to call Comcast and everything, and basically unplug the modem, replug it. Let me make sure a few other things are all right, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Both of you just kind of summarize things up, and I'll let you know when I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, the last, I don't know if it was the last stream or the stream before. One of the last streams I was on, he got attacked, disconnected, especially the one after he had an argument with Brooke when he said, I'm going to go on monologue, and he got disconnected for 10 to 20 minutes, roughly around that, between that.
It's always been. And when I was first on his show years ago, we would, like maybe 15, 20 minutes, even a half an hour before the show, we would talk to do all kinds of checks. And also there was so much going on politically and society and all that
Right.
Sometimes he wanted to check with me about he wanted to be sensitive to the things that we were talking about, because there was just so much chaos going on, and sometimes it was so overwhelming for me. Pizzagate being one of the main things. So he wanted to know if sometimes I was in the middle of an emergency where I had to find somebody or counsel somebody or all kinds of weirdness. And he wanted to know if I could talk right away or if he had to, as he calls it, hold down the fort.
Right.
So we would have good conversation, and then the moment we went to air, my computer would crash, or there was distortion, or there was lagging behind, or my computer could have been working fine all day long, or his computer was working fine all day long, and then the very moment where we were just about to go live, and there was like all kinds of weirdness, or just as we were about to give a good point somewhere in the show, in the transmission, it was choppy, or
It was just like always something going wrong.
Or constantly dead silence, or sometimes we had commercials where no commercials should have been. It was always something going on, constantly. And then I learned if I prayed before the show. Nothing. we had fine transmission.
That's good.
Yeah. Or there was times where I would read scriptures while we were doing transmission. As long as I was doing that, everything was fine. But there was always something.
From what you're saying, there must have been unseen forces interrupting the electronics and frequencies of the connection and your computers and the internet connection for the stream.
Yeah, always something. Or I would log on to Facebook and it's like, okay, my intercessors, I'm on Livestream.
Okay, I'm
I
back.
need you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Douglas, we were talking about shows that I was on prior, way back, and how we would have technical difficulties, and even if prior to the show we had a good, clear connection and really great conversation, and then the moment that you said, "All right, we're live," and then all kinds of weirdness would happen.
Absolutely. No, it's always the same shit. Yeah, it's we don't live in a democracy. We live in a totalitarian state that is indeed run by a bunch of baby raping Satanists. They're your fucking military, and so they basically your intelligence services, all of the authorities that you look up to, and basically what the Americans fucking worship, the people that they believe won World War II. The Americans are just completely under the thumb. Now, what I've got to decide at this moment is whether it's worth it to continue a stream. We'll have to get enough people where I feel it's worth it. Or we'll see if enough people gather around the campfire, so to speak. So I need people to start participating in the chat room, to just show up, start talking. We're going to see if we can make this happen. If not, what I'll do is retreat into the day. But it's definitely not something I want to do. But the biggest problem would be whether or not this particular segment will be accessed. Now, the last time that this happened, 2 weeks ago, was when they took the modem out, and it was when I said I was going to go into monologue. Usually I go into monologue around 4 hours before the stream would end, because it has to end after 12 hours. In the time that I was just preparing to do that last night, obviously is when they struck. So that, plus they also obviously felt that Michelle Carmela had to be shut down. So when they, it's a bit of a double whammy there. And when we got knocked out, I don't know if anyone was aware. Were both of you, or either one of you, or any one of you, meaning Mark H. or the Aristides, were any of you aware that the stream had effectively, well, it was continuing? Basically, I don't believe that you were being recorded. As soon as I dropped out of the call was when effectively I was offline, which means that all the recording of whatever the rest of you were saying on call must have stopped.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, it eventually stopped. Yeah.
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 And so all of you were.
But we kept going though.
Well, I'm sure all of you kept going on a personal level, right? You turned it into basically a private roundtable at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who stayed to participate? Just Nemo and you, or did Mark and Aristides?
Mark had to leave, and Aristides.
Probably
Mark did for a while, and then he had to leave.
It showed he was active in the chat, Skype chat, but he wouldn't unmute his mic and respond. But it indicated he kept acknowledging every new message that popped up in the chat, because your profile picture shows up under
cute.
each message that you look at, but he wasn't talking at all.
That's cute.
He was still on mute.
Okay. Yeah. And El Nemo says, please thumbs up. Okay, so El Nemo's in the chat, so that's good. And bless you for that. Let's see if we can gather any more around the fire place, so to speak.
We got 9 watching now.
Yeah, cool. Trying to get, around almost double that number at least. Let's see if we could get a bit more than that before I start going into, or I may not get into, a monologue at all. So we'll see if I gather enough people, then I'll go into the monologue. I understand other people can always access it later, but it's one of those things.
Yeah.
By the way,
you should get active again on Twitter too, so you can post your live streams there as well as on Facebook.
I'll have to have someone teach me how to use that, and God knows if that'll even be allowed, because Twitter's gone haywire under Elon Musk. It's that guy is like he's done the complete opposite of everything he said he would do for Twitter, which is like, his whole complaint was that they weren't transparent, all that shit, and then he's gone completely opaque. He's just hitting everything. I mean, I could screen share with you and kind of show you an example of what we're talking about. Let's see if I can go.
I was under the impression that it was better because there was less censorship, because there's people posting porno images of themselves on their own channel.
There's more censorship than ever. It depends on what you're looking at being censored. He doesn't censor the porn. That's not what bothers him. What bothers him is anything he deems to be liberal progressive. So if we go over, I'm sharing screen right now. To give you an example of this, this doesn't even do it justice. So let's take a look at, here we are, going down Livestream, and let's take a look at, it wasn't that long ago, or maybe it was a while back, that I painted a particular picture that I also embedded in thumbnail of Livestream. It became kind of like a favorite of Selena Khan. She kept reposting it. And she was, at that time, going into a spiral. She was always just basically in kind of a spiral, but she went into a deep spiral. This image right here. So if you take a look at this image, we'll see if it crops up at all, because the internet's slow, and if they hit me once, it takes a while. So this image is obviously a young lady holding up a rainbow flag. That image was deemed by Elon Musk to be a violation of community standards. And he said, basically, got the message, don't want this filth on Twitter and shit. I mean, really? Really? So that shows you where he's at. He's at the level of...
That's so confusing, because I'm subscribed to femboys showing pictures of themselves nude, so I don't know where he draws the line on certain things on that topic. Weird.
This is highly politicized. That's why.
Yeah,
so
that's why. Yeah, politicized.
This is politicized. So to him, he's definitely at this point, the people that he's put onto Twitter are all neo-Nazis who have no understanding of real Nazism. It's all white male supremacists, incels, and just all the worst of the former abusers that the former Twitter was banning. He brought them all back in force, and then he banned all the people that he considered to be the oppressors, which is anyone liberal or progressive. So this falls into that category. Right. So he's just all his stuff about free speech means free speech for his politics, but everyone else gets censored.
Very conditional.
Yeah, it's he's just a piece of shit, but we all know that.
Oh yeah, he's just a fucktard puppet.
Yeah, I wouldn't even if he were a puppet. In a sense, he is. But he's a puppet mostly to, basically a mob. He's responding to a mob but he's not, there's no like...
I feel like he has probably some hidden masters that he answers to behind closed doors, but that's just my thought.
That would almost dignify him. Him because he's just like, he's just a cheap piece of shit who's like responding to popularity. He's popular among a certain crowd that he wants to vibe with. So he wants to vibe with these kinds of people, and so he's earning their respect by letting them run wild and censoring people that he and they felt were oppressing them. And, other than that, I don't think there's much to it. I mean, you're talking about guys like him and Jeff Bezos. It's like, guys like that, if they're wasting their time on phallic pastimes like rockets into space that they can, ultimately feel weightless in and shit, these are like dudes who the government finds them so impotent and so unthreatening. The government just lets them do whatever they want because they're not doing anything like really threatening to the state. It's not like they're raising private armies or militias. They're not doing any James Bond villain shit.
They're not impeding on the agendas of the rulers.
So they're just allowed to indulge themselves because that's all they're doing.
He's that delusional. He thinks he's gonna do a fucking MMA fight with Zuckerberg, I should say.
Yeah, Fuckerberg.
And he's
Go on.
And he's experienced fighter because he's been practicing mixed martial arts. And Elon Musk is just a fat lazy retard.
Well, I think now you're giving Zuckerberg too much dignity.
I don't mean. I'm just saying realistically, like he's gone out of his way to actually practice fight mixed martial arts and shit.
Well, let's put it this way. When it comes to...
He's still a weak pussy,
Yeah. When it comes to Zuckerberg, it's like Putin when he was doing his hockey trip. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, when Putin was like, getting into the hockey rink with the other Russian hockey players, and they just let him hit all the goals he wanted. And
he'd even participate in like martial arts too, in wearing the gi. Versing a woman. Oh, look, I could tackle a woman.
Yeah.
It's just pathetic.
Yeah. It was, for what it's worth, at least in the old days, he had gone through some KGB required martial arts training. He at least had that. Not that there's too much to that, but it's still better than what Zuckerberg's got. But with Sucker Cuckerberg, when it comes to somebody like that, basically what they're doing is they're buying black belts. They're just buying black belts. We got to be realistic here. Martial artists need to eat too. And so when you got your martial arts master and somebody like Sucker Fucker Cuckerberg comes along, and they're willing to throw you money so that you can call them a great fighter. I've given you my secrets, you'll take that money so you could set up a training dojo for serious students. You've always wanted to do that all your life, right? So, here's your opportunity. Now I can set up that dojo.
He's got the money.
Yeah. So the martial arts master will take that, give him a black belt, and do something serious with the money.
I could cave his inbred face in with one punch. That's how weak and pasty and fragile he is.
Yeah, guaranteed. Yeah, dude, you wouldn't need to touch him. Dude, you wouldn't need to touch him.
Just confronting him, he'd shit himself.
Yes. Thank you. By the way,
staring down.
Thank you. Acid Kick 96 says, glad you're back, DDD and El Nemo. And don't forget Carmela as well, though I suspect she's fading fast.
Yes, I was gonna sign off.
Oh my God, I love you.
But you guys were having such a good contemplation about these two.
Yes. Anything you got to say there? Add it in. Oh my God! By the way, honey, I love you, and you did great. And
she had a lot to say on your stream.
I must have done fantastic because they decided
to strike the modem. DDS, distributed denial of services attack, just like our man Nemo analyzed. Honey, they hate you.
I know, fear you. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
They fear you with a passion. So you proved yourself.
I have a lot to look forward to, obviously.
Yeah.
These next chapters must be incredible waiting for me. Looking forward to it.
We love you, honey, and you're going to kick ass at that trial.
Strong moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got this.
I love you guys, and Debo, it was good talking with you. And,
you too.
And, the last time I talked on your show, I ended up feeling like a princess because it was me and a bunch of you gents, and so thank you.
You are a princess, honey.
So yes, I'm the princess and the queen.
Yes.
And all of it. So anyway, I love you guys, and thank you so much.
Have a good sleep.
Yeah. You've earned your rest.
I sure will. And those who decided to attack the server or whatever you did, thank you for making me feel even more special. I appreciate it very much.
That's right.
So I always thank them because what a thankless job that they have, being so
what a pathetic life.
Yeah.
What a pathetic life they have.
Very pathetic job, and they're stuck. They're stuck in that pathetic job, and I get to grow. So, and even in my weakest state, I'm stronger than they are. So, there.
And they're all going to end up in the pit when they die anyway for serving the entities of chaos.
And I wonder if I'm going to dance or sing, or I know I'll be popping popcorn.
The torments of the damned are the felicity of the redeemed.
And are my entertainment too.
Yes.
Because I was once their entertainment, so I have no problem. I have no problem using them for my entertainment. I mean,
that's right.
Why not? Why not?
That's right. That's right, darling.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have sweet dreams, and when you guys finally log off, sweet dreams to you too. And thank you, everybody who listened. Thank you, everybody that I got to visit with. And good night or good morning.
Night.
Yeah, good day, honey. You've earned your rest.
Okay.
All
Bye.
Right. Bye for now.
Bye.
But we'll be back. Okay. You'll be back. All right, darling. Okay, so just you and I for now. I do want to emphasize that when it comes to the cosmology, this is the way that I have come to learn it. Now, our man Nemo has been gifted, or cursed rather, with some very vivid dreaming capacity, lucid dreaming, and that's important. It's important, and it provides insights. But I, of course, was clinically dead. Now, there's only one time, the first time, I essentially went to a hell, if a person would see it that way. It's a nether region, definitely lower density, lower level, lower vibes, lower vibrations. And I described what that was about, and how I was taken out of there, pushed out of there by a lovely young lady. Well, I didn't think she was lovely until she did that. My original encounter with her was pretty fucking negative. Though she was always someone I was actually attracted to. In a young sense, not nearly with the sense of lust I would later develop in life, but I developed the
just
sense
an
of
innocent crush.
Yeah, something like that. Though I developed lust pretty fucking early, but I hadn't developed it yet at that point, admittedly. In her case, she committed suicide and therefore was dead, but she was definitely at a higher vibration, a higher vibrational level, and felt she owed me something, and came down to push me out. Now, where we go is kind of like the space that we're in when we die, combined with the space that we were in throughout the majority of our lives. So all of this combines, but I do want people to understand that I've tried to liken everybody take a look again at that wonderful gift we got from the Jewish people, the Hebraic culture known as the Kabbalah. And it's profound, and it's a diagrammatic way of understanding the cosmos. And there's 9 sphere, and they represent the 9 planets as well as the 9 angelic realms. And beneath that is the tree of death, and those are the klipoth, or the shells, the empty husks of an extestinal tract. Not intestinal, but extestinal. Think of the extestinal organs like somebody's colon that's stuck way out when the colon's distended, like Stephen Outrim's. And which, by the way, is a physical fact. It's not something that I'm saying to be funny. This is a guy who showed it to me when he wanted me to have sex with him and offered me $1 million to suck his distended colon.
Full
like
on
a
prolapsed.
Yeah, prolapsed. Thank you. I couldn't have gotten that out without you. That is the correct
I watch
term.
a lot of anal porn.
Yes, there we are. So yeah, he had a prolapsed colon from all the butt fuckery. He would pay. That was apparently how he orgasmed, because he was impotent. He warned me about that because, again, this guy was offering me $1 million to have sex with him. So he was giving me the forewarning that he was impotent. So he would pay people to fuck him, and that was how he orgasmed, was through the prostate stimulation. This is what happens to a lot of guys who develop anal addiction, is because they are prostate stimulated. Far different from a woman. They don't have that. They don't have a prostate, so they don't have that ability to orgasm anally, because they don't have prostate stimulation. This is all pretty fucking gross to a lot of you, I'm sure, and I don't mean to dwell on it. But my point is that think of that as being the tree of death beneath the tree of life. Something similar with polyps. And those polyps are the nether shells, those nether regions, those hells. And there's 9 of them. So I want everybody to understand it's a reflection of what's above, but on a different vibratory level. So think of the Taj Mahal. There was always a rumor or a myth that there were 2 Taj Mahals. And what people are really referencing is the body of water in front of the Taj Mahal. And the body of water in front of the Taj Mahal causes a perfect reflection in the very flat, stagnant, and black waters of the pool in front of the Taj Mahal. So there are 2 Taj Mahals in that sense. There's a Taj Mahal that's a perfect inverted reflection of the Taj Mahal above, so to speak. It shows up in photographs. So this is kind of like the tree of life and death. And so when you think of that, there's that aspect of sinking to the lower levels. If someone is a very negative person, a nasty person, they're just stuck in hate and vindictiveness and pettiness. But I've also spoken of this as being a composting. How necessary this is to the ecosystem, that these devils and demons are really just doing their job, that they're evil in a sense, but not really. They're not really, because what they're doing is so necessary to the ecosystem, the ecology of our cosmology, of our universe. Like I said, all those things you love, flowers that are the blossom of the lotus that floats above the swamp waters, the blossoms that are in your garden or in the wild. All of this requires a compost beneath them that's loaded with carrion feeders that break that shit down into nutrients that the plants feed off of to become primary energy producers. If not for you, then for bees who make honey and other sweet things in life. All this sources from something very sour underneath the ground and out of sight. So without that hell beneath the surface, you are, well, your world, that the world you enjoy and appreciate, would not exist. So that's the same with these devils and demons. They're serving a purpose. They're there and yeah, they corrupt people. They terrorize people. They cause misery and evil. And all of this is God's work, because then they turn some people towards evil, and those people are corrupted, and they wind up being composted. Now, this composting is not infinite. It recycles. That's what the whole purpose is. So ultimately, those people at those lower levels, those damned souls, recycle, and you ascend, you rise out of those hells when you realize you don't belong there, that you're not vibing at that level anymore, when you come to an awareness. Some people don't do that for millions of years. Some souls, but time is really different down there, and on the other side up there as well. But the way to think of it, when you're talking about your average nasty, evil, or petty person, no matter what their standing in society or their wealth, and they could be an impoverished, drug-addled street thug, or they could be at the level of Bezos and Zuckerberg, think of it this way. When they die, if you were able to see their souls, it's like when I went into the basement. I told people the other day I went into the basement. It was broad daylight. But San Francisco, probably a bit inclement weather. I went into the basement and I saw motion. Because, of course, as I said, my home and many of the homes around me are built on top of a Russian cemetery. This used to be Russian Hill, and they just built the homes on top of the cemetery. There's activity like you wouldn't believe here. Supernatural activity off the scale. And so when I went to the basement the other day, I saw something scurrying like a rat or a rodent going through the wall, but it was just the air. You could see the motion of the air moving, but it was moving in such a way you got the impression of little fat chubby legs. Almost like if you were to just really dwell on the shape of what I saw just running into the wall, where it disappeared into the wall. It would be like Dr. Seuss had these stupid little creatures that were always the assistants to the main characters, like Thing 1 and Thing 2 for Dr. Seuss. His Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat for Dr. Seuss had Thing 1 and Thing 2, and they would run around these little furry, like dwarven midgets. Think of something like that, or something like a plucked chicken. If you ever saw a plucked chicken ready for basting or cooking, and you notice it's got those two legs are the most outstanding feature onto this humped little figure with the bent wings, the humped little fucking chicken or turkey body. Think of something like that actually running, and you see the motion that's created in the air of something like that running, a headless plucked chicken body running on its ankle bones. That's effectively what I saw. Not as defined as that, but you could see the motion of the air, the disturbance of the air around it created that impression. So that's what I saw, and then it's small. The first thing, big as a chicken. So your average damned soul, the soul of somebody who's nasty, evil, mean-spirited, their soul reflects that. It's small. Think of bug life. So if somebody like Zuckerberg or like Jeff Bezos, when they die, their soul would fall into the sewers of Seth, the sewers of those Klepoth, those lower realms. It's like they're bugs, and I mean literally like they're bugs. They are so small. This is how the Greeks would have viewed it. If you ever took a look at the ferryman, Charon the ferryman, he was the man who ferried the dead to the other side, and you had to have money for him to even take you. So these guys aren't lacking in that. But once he got you to the other side, what is the other side? The destination differs depending on what vibrational level you're at. So he could take you to the higher realms, or he'll take you to the lower realms. But if he takes you to the lower realms and he drops you off in the sewers that are the destination for so many of these lower awareness, lower level people, you don't need to be like a enlightened person to ascend. You just have to be at a lighter vibrational level. Somebody
Positive.
like I'm sorry, say that again.
Positive being, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, a good example would be developmentally disabled people. What we would say in crueler times, we'd call them retarded. Most
They're
of these,
kind of incorruptible.
yeah, they just ascend. They're like clouds. They're not going to sink because they don't have enough of a consciousness or awareness.
Or an ego.
Or ego, thank you. That's basically it. But when Charon the ferryman is kicking off your average Jeff Bezos or your average Zucker Kuckerberg, now remember, I know this. I've been there. I've been to hell. He basically takes his paddle and he lifts them off the boat like a bug at the end of his flat end of his paddle and throws them into the sewer and then smashes them down like a roach into the waters. They're like the size of a shrimp. They're like small. really small because their lives were small. I mean, when you get to the point of wealth of Jeff Bezos or these other fuckers like, who's the guy, his name's escaping me now, the Twitter fucker, Musk, the Musk man, the Musk rat, and all you can think of is blasting a big phallic rocket up into the sky as your statement that you've made it. There's nothing going on inside. There's nothing going on inside. There's nothing there. You're empty. When these guys die, they're bugs. They're roaches. They're the size, not of a lobster, but of a shrimp. And Karen the ferryman, they'll have enough money to pay for him to take them, but they'll find out their destination is these lower vibrational levels. And they'll be swatted down off the end of his paddle, flipped off like a bug, and then smashed down like a shrimp. I mean, that's pretty much how he does it. And this is kind of metaphorical, but it's not. And so understand that in that sense, size matters. It's reflective. It's reflective because these people are small inside, which is why they are launching such big rockets. They're overcompensating, not just for a small dick, but for a really small soul. There's nothing inside. They are truly empty. It's why they're going into the vacuum of space. Now, that's not that it's not a noble aspiration for a culture, but for an individual. Okay, it's nothing that they're doing is meaningful. Musk might try to delude you into thinking he can populate Mars, but it's the stupid. He can't. There's, no matter how wealthy a person is, it takes the mass mobilization of a nation state to colonize other worlds. Some man can't do it with a company town. Not at this stage of history. It would take a state expanding the frontier first. Let's look at the original frontier of the American West. Look at Australia. You think that Australian individuals decided they were going to go into that wasteland and say, no, they were sent there by the fucking British Empire, who said, fuck you, we don't want you, and we're dumping you here like it's a biological landfill. And that's how some Australians wound up down there. Now, a few of them were a bit more entrepreneurial than others and prospered. The rest of them, fuck, I've been there. I've never seen so many homeless people outside of San Francisco in all my life.
And there's a lot of drug fiends here too.
Yeah, it's a train wreck. The economy is stagnant. It's amazing how many people are on welfare in Australia. They're just not motivated. It's something down there really just drains people dry, to use a pun. And when you go to, of course, someplace like America, think of the frontier west. It took the government to just say, we're going to give you land, free land, with their Homestead Act. Just everybody gets free land, but you gotta settle it and develop it, or you don't get to keep it. If you don't develop the land, you don't get to keep it. So they gave free land to people who were entrepreneurial, could prosper, were basically assholes enough to kick other people's asses and hire them at cheap wages to work their land. Then they got to keep their land. Everybody else just lost it. So, sure, but the government had to back that up. It's the government, not some private individual. Later on, people got rich out there and they became, big-time wealthy wheelers and dealers. And ultimately, what took over the West were big corporate bodies like the Copper Trust and various conglomerates involved with mining, railroads, various industries. But the government had to get it all started. All business at the corporate, at this exponential level of profit is parasitic. It couldn't exist if it weren't parasitic. It's parasitizing off the state. It's not, it could buy private mercenaries, but only to a degree. After a while, when you think of the expense of real armies, like with fucking fighter jets and battleships. Okay, at that level, the corporation's going to lose its profit. So they depend on the nation state, your tax dollars, to defend them. Basically, and there's only a limit to what the states can do. Say, for instance, World War II, the French government, under the Nazi collaborationist Vichy, the Nazi allied Vichy regime, they nationalized General Motors production facilities in France. And then the U.S. government bombed those facilities in World War II because they were operating on behalf of the enemy. Afterwards, General Motors had the balls to sue the United States government, but they didn't win. So just understand this. It's not like General Motors was able to defend its own property. If another nation state grabs that property, just says, we're nationalizing this, the corporation is fucked. So they're dependent on a sympathetic government to get them their property back. Did the U.S. government get General Motors' property back to General Motors? No, they bombed it. They destroyed it. General Motors was pissed. Oh, we were on your side. You destroyed our property. And they sued, but tough shit. In the end, it's the government has the bigger gun. So the government is what's always going to be in power, not the goddamn corporations. No matter how powerful they get, they're not going to supersede a nation state. And so with Bezos and the Bozo and Zuckerberg and the Muskrat, they're just they're what they are. The clowns. The fucking clowns. And and when they die, understand the difference between myself and, say, that idiot who was on here for a while, Salman Sheikh, the crazy man who said that video games were real. And by the way, the reason he said that was because if you ever read his book, and by God, I've had the misfortune of his sending his book to me. If you ever scan through his book, his entire book is all about the movies he's watched and the video games he's played, because that's all he's got in life. He hasn't done anything else. Even though he was rich enough to travel to Pakistan or England whenever he wants, it's not like he's going any place where he's seeing anything. He's just going to countries and, basically safe. He's wealthy. He's, he may be going to some frontier areas in Pakistan, but it's not like this guy's doing anything like deep camping or what you'd call frontier tourism or anything like that. This guy's not, and he's in terrible physical shape. So when he's like, it was our man George Knight who pointed out all the pull-ups he's doing are fucking fake. We were calling them dick-ups because he's just swinging and using momentum. He's not using his arm muscles. So that fucker, he was like, what was he saying about the video games? He was like, oh, it's all real because that's the only experience he's ever had. So he has to make it real, and that way he thinks he has experience. Somebody like that. I'm sorry, were you going to say anything about that?
No, I was just laughing.
Yeah. So with that guy, he would often, whoever he disliked, he'd say, "You're going to burn in hell for all eternity," which is what he once claimed about my gang stalkers. Then he became a gang stalker and then claimed that about myself. This is not the spirit in which I'm saying what I'm saying. Something like that is just they're the kind of people who are going to go where they're damning everybody else because that's the small, mean-spirited person they are. When they're just saying, I don't like you, you're going to go to hell. Okay, this is the kind of person who themselves sinks to that level. They sink to that lower vibrational level. That's where they're at. They're in their vibrational level is only somebody I dislike goes to hell. And, they dislike most of the world because most of the world, they take a look at his channel. His subscriptions are non-existent and nobody goes to see his channel. The only way people even knew about him was based on my channel. So you're talking about non-entities. They're bug life. So they're bug life in this life and they're bug life in the afterlife. So that's where they vibe. That's the level at where they're at. So again, it's not that I'm saying that oh, if you get a higher awareness or ascend to a higher consciousness is how you rise. Not at all. You just really have to be just a decent person. You could be an ignorant, illiterate, unread peasant, a native in the forests of the Amazon or the Congo, and likely those people have almost 100% chance of accession to higher vibrational levels simply because they're not exposed to corruption and they don't become corrupt. Nevertheless, you wouldn't want to live like them. A good example is anthropologist. One anthropologist was in the Amazon rainforest and saw it firsthand. It's like, these are people who don't need clothes because the weather is always warm. They don't, they basically eat food right off trees. All the fruit they want. Animals are easy to hunt and abundant. So their life is Edenic. But that means there's no real disambiguation for them between the dream world and the real world. So when the anthropologist who was down there studying these people slept with them in the open, they're all sleeping in kind of like a camp gathering site, their normal way of life. They go to sleep, and then he was witness to one of them waking up, picking up a stone, rock, big rock. He basically, how do I describe this? Basically picked up a BFR, a big fucking rock, and then smashed open the skull of the man sleeping next to him. So the anthropologist, as you might imagine, asked, "Why?" And he said, "I dreamt he was going to try to kill me." So you understand that to these indigenous peoples, because the dream world is real, and there's no disambiguation between the dream world and the real world. If you dreamt the man was going to kill you, that's as good as his declaring he's going to kill you when you're awake. Everybody accepted what the man said. There's no reason for him to lie, and they all went back to sleep. And then when they vacated the area, left the body to the animals. So that's not necessarily it's an incorrupted life. Do I believe that the man who killed the other man is going to go to hell? It's not like the Christian sense of murder. He did what he did in self-defense. Understand that his dreams.
He didn't know any better. Yeah.
It's not even that. Understand that to that culture, if their dreams are as real as your reality, as when you're awake, then it's beyond he didn't know any better. He killed in self-defense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he dreamt the man next to him was going to try and kill him. So to them, that's as good as real. So in his world, what he did was what you would call legal self-defense. And so such being said, understand that these people still kill. They still wage war. The only difference is that, they're killing each other in, sometimes they'll wipe entire tribes out. And the stupidest question I ever hear from really dumbass Christians, dumbass creationists. And by the way, I, in my own way, am a creationist because I've always talked about the reflection of much of the biblical word in our reality. I've discussed this on an evolutionary sense before, that ultimately all evidence points to a creator because all evidence proves that life itself is completely impossible. Should never have even happened. There's obviously a creator involved. The point is, when you start trying to equate that creator's motives with pages and moldy old books and attribute to that creator petty motivations, at that point you're on a track towards ignorance. When I get stupid creationists saying, well, if evolution is true, which it is. That doesn't, by the way, evolution does not cancel out a creator. It's simply the creator works through evolution.
It incorporated evolution in its creation.
Yes. And understand that when they say stupid things to me like, why aren't monkeys evolving now? They are. Believe me, they are. And they are evolving quickly. All you have to do is look up chimps at war. And chimps are violent as fucking hell. They will cannibalize other chimps. They'll wipe out other chimp tribes. I mean, you've seen this, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I've seen a lot of videos on it. Different troops killing each other for territory, and they'll eat their opposition in front of the other troops.
Yeah, yes. And by the way, by troops, he's talking about these groups of chimps and that are far more violent than great apes. And beyond that, they use tools. Now, you can look this up on YouTube.
They've been taught to use machetes and stuff in certain African countries.
I was personally witness to this. I personally killed primates that were charging at me with machetes and machine guns. You can look up on YouTube. There are chimps welding machine guns. This is like all real. None of this is fantasy. So they have been unleashed, and they are evolving. So understand that war is a process of evolution. People evolve fast when they're at war. Primates are simply us at a different physiological level. Their genetic difference between us and chimps is incredibly small. And yes, we can interbreed. There have been products of interbreeding with chimps and human beings that have come out of Africa. They have been products that were produced by the Soviets. So these are all real. The Planet of the Apes is quite real. And as I said before, it's what ultimately led to my subspecies, the vampires. Understand that what I've said before many times, I tried to answer the fucking idiots, the Bulgarian bozos about this, but really didn't do it justice in my answer to them because, you know, I really was getting bad vibes from them. Even then, they were just completely annoying me, irritating me. They weren't worthy of my time, even though they had paid $1,000. They thought that they had bought me body and soul with it. It was disgusting. So when it comes to what I was trying to explain to them about the evolution of the vampire, basically the vampire has been stalking humanity since the day after the progenitors of mankind lost the battle for the planet of the apes. So before you go totally off the deep end based on what I just said, thinking that I'm lost on some kind of science fiction spiral, understand that the way the Soviets viewed it in their study of vampirism was they took the evolutionary perspective that our primeval home lies in the African savanna for the human species. That 20 million years ago, the world was enjoying the Miocene. Depending on how you pronounce it, Miocene, but probably more correctly the Miocene. Kenya, which we were speaking of earlier, and we had a man in our chat room from Kenya earlier last night, formerly German Ostafrika. It was cooler then, very well watered, where today there's savanna, then there were forests. And in those forests were apes. And those apes were frugivores, fruit eaters, with very large canine teeth for self-defense. And we know for a certainty that tribes of these creatures inhabited forests on the shores of what the imperializing British renamed as Lake Victoria. Now, fossils on the primordial lake shoreline tell us that some species of this ape lived a good part of its life on the ground. We call that creature the tree dweller and the ground dweller alike, proconsul. Now, throughout the Miocene, equatorial Africa was this torrid jungle. Tangled forests extended throughout much of Europe. The forest apes adapted increasingly to this environment. We can envision selective mutation spreading longer and longer arms throughout the community to swing better on the vines. We can envision development of the chest muscles and ability to swing from branch to branch on the Tarzan-like prime mobile system, the vine. But the brothers on the ground did not change discernibly. There's a suggestion that evolutionary pressure would tend to make them stand more upright, the better to watch out for approaching predators. But otherwise, it would seem they remained largely unspecialized. I mean, that's unfair to say because they had to change the position of their necks. Your average ape, that if you got your average great ape to stand up straight, your average chimp, their eyes would be gazing skyward at the stars all day because their neck is pretty much stuck in that position where they're using their forearms, their knuckles, as a one of their primary propellants. In other words, they're quadrupedal. They basically have 4 feet, just like they have 4 hands, because they can use their feet to grasp trees, and which humans can't. And yeah, at the same time, like humans can't, they can use their hands to help them propel forward. They do that in a motion where you see them move like Donkey Kong. That's why Donkey Kong in the video game climbs using his hands and his feet, kind of like in this motion that you could emulate if you were climbing, but you'd ultimately get tired real fast and fall off of whatever you were climbing. By the way, you just sent me something, Nemo. I can't seem to find it. Wait, is this in the private messages or something like that?
I did send you a message asking you, did you get DDoS? So ignore it.
Okay. So I do want people to understand that our minds are conditioned to grasping only short stretches of time. So this is why it takes some describing here. When it comes to the human being, we evolved so our neck would put our skull with the eyes looking at the horizon. We had to look at the horizon so we could see approaching rhinoceri and T-Rexes or whatever. Just whatever was approaching. Tigers and lions and shit. But an ape or a chimp standing upright would be looking at stars instead and wouldn't see that coming because their necks are positioned in such a way that, they're fucked. So they'd have to evolve like we did and learn to stop using their arms like knuckle dragon troglodytes and basically shorten their arms so that they could basically use it for tool use so they could swing rocks and sticks at whatever was coming over the horizon. That's why the ground apes changed to a high degree, just like the tree apes, but in a different sense. So, if the developmental history of all animals is summed up in the single phrase, when do we eat? Then remember that these dwellers on the forest edge ate fruit. And in the Miocene, there was more than enough fruit to be had. Fruit would ripen and drop from the trees. So the apes on the ground just had to pick up what fell to the ground. See, when times are easy, evolution stops. Times, of course, did not stay easy. And with the ending of the Miocene, the Pliocene, or the Pliocene, brought what was called drought. D-R-U-G-H-T-H. Drought. That's worse than drought. Think of ecosystemic planetary fucking drought. Orders of magnitude beyond current measurability. Our minds, because they're such a short lifespan that we have, we don't think very far. We speak glibly of climatic conditions of a geological epoch and think about how bad our weather was last week. But the Pliocene didn't last a week. It lasted 12 million years. 12 million years of drought is a terrestrial catastrophe of the highest magnitude. It didn't mean the rain ceased overnight and remained untapped for millennia upon millennia. It means the rains grew shorter and less frequent, and as they did so, the environment changed. Specifically, in East Africa, we no longer had the steady mixture of forest and flatland, which allowed for the comfortable coexistence of two very different types of ape. The forests gradually shrank, and with them, the available supply of fruit. Competition between the apes grew stronger for what was left. And it was, as one might conceive, a grossly uneven struggle. Those millions of Miocene years had equipped one branch of the line to survive in the forest, the arboreal canopy, where the fruit was. When it came to a grudge fight, the tree apes were in their own environment. Swift, agile, strong, long canines, long arms. And grudge fights there must have been. Although we could never picture the whole evolutionary scape as a battle royale. What happened broadly was that when a forest ape and a ground ape raced for the apple in that shrinking Eden, the forest ape was equipped to get there first. His brother had to find another food supply or starve. Now, the story has a predictable ending. In this fight for survival, the forest ape won. That is to say, he won the battle for the planet of the apes, which was all. The ape's world? Ape world was the canopy. The arboreal treetops. He won the forests. But that was a poor prize compared with what went to the vanquished land ape, for the vanquished inherited the earth. But that's hindsight. And foresight of the same in those days would have been poor consolation, cold comfort to the land ape. In the short term, he inherited only the bush, with roots and berries for food, and the hungry leopard as his constant nightmare. But our ancestral ape had primate cunning, and in the bush, evolution made him lighter and more agile. There's a gambling chance that at this time, our cunning, well, yours, agile ground apes, did something no living creature had ever done before. He picked up a stone or a branch and used it to dispatch an oncoming enemy he saw coming over the horizon because he was able to lay his eyes forward as opposed to looking up at the stars to a haunched skeletal structure based on walking with your fucking knuckles. Now, we cannot ascertain for certain that the use of weapons dates back to this time, but it seems the only reasonable explanation for the fact that, in the evolutionary clock tick of 1 million years, his fighting canines all but vanished. Now, agility, cunning, and weapons make up an impressive dossier, but it was not enough. The drought continued, and like the forests before it, the bush itself thinned. Territories expanded. Your ancestral ape had to range farther and farther for food, expose himself to greater and greater dangers, and he simply wasn't equipped for them. Nowhere nearly equipped for them. He must have come very close indeed to racial death. Extinction must have haunted humanity for millions of years. Now, at this crisis time, our ancestral ape, how should I put it? Think of my father, my legal father, not my biological father, Adolf Hitler, but this warm and simple man, the Irishman with some German heritage and a little bit of Native American blood in him. George Joseph Henry Dietrich, God bless his soul, was a combat sailor who had been through over 3 wars. He had more than a few ships that had been shot out from under him, so to speak. Ships that had sunk. And because of that, he found himself on a lifeboat. At least once in his life. So think of this incongruent analogy that forces itself upon us. The image of my father in a lifeboat, dying of thirst, floating on more water than he could ever comprehend, on more water than he could use in 1,000 lifetimes. Yet my father, George Dietrich, at one point in his life, when lost on the high seas, in a lifeboat, was dying by the hour for lack of water. His body so adapted to sweet water, fresh water, that it could never utilize the salt waters available around him in profusion. Now, my father survived that. Ultimately, through a series of circumstances, he was rescued. But our ancestral ape was in the same boat without a paddle. Despite the drought, despite the shrinking forest and the shrinking shrub, there was food around him in abundance. The savanna teemed with life. It offered protein, fats, vitamins in cornucopia. But your ancestral ape could not eat meat. At that crisis time, the line of evolution split. One branch of the bush apes made a virtue of necessity. They became ever increasingly efficient omnivores, devourers of both animal and vegetable substances. A generalization that shows plainly in your own contemporary set of teeth, which you have unwittingly been bequeathed by that ancient primal ancestor, adapted to rending meat towards the front so that you may display your flesh-rending ability, your canines, to others when you smile. Understand, whenever you shake hands with a man and you smile, you're basically, as a primate, in your reptilian cortex of your back brain, you and he are challenging each other as primates. When you're shaking a man's hand and you're smiling, you're showing him your fist and your teeth. That's what the handshake and the smile are all about. It's not a gesture of friendship. You're subconsciously both jockeying for supremacy. That's what you're doing. You're not being friendly. You're basically, well, you're going to see who's the bigger man, or at least the more dominant. It's not always size prize. It's always aggression. That's what you're really at when you're greeting each other. Never forget that. Someday, what I'm explaining to you might come to your advantage. You'll probably thank me for it then. Though I'd appreciate your fiscal support right now. That being said, what I can tell you is that as human beings, you must have been consummately aggressive. Because this omnivorous adaptation spread via your seed. And with the spread of your viral seed spread a change of habits in your ever-expanding branch. Your ancestral apes no longer scrabbled for roots in the bush. Their horizons widened. They spread out onto the broad savanna and commenced to herd the game that would gradually become your cattle. So, Think on this for a moment. Another divergent and highly specialized branch grew out of an incredibly frightening collateral mutation. Not a herder like you, but a hunter. Yeah, sure, you hunt, and sure, you think of yourself as the top of the food chain. That's your delusion, because you're ignorant. Well, basically beyond that. As a species, humans, by getting to the weapons development point of machine guns, and reflecting on the fact that no animal yet has evolved a Kevlar-like bulletproof hide, you delude yourselves into thinking you're the top of the fucking food chain. But where do humans really rank on the food chain? You're not at the fucking top. You're nowhere near the goddamn top. If you were to watch the movie Predator, you see the predators going after, first the fox, then the bear, and then moves up to the humans to reinforce your self-aggrandizing delusion that you're at the top of the food chain. But you're really towards the middle. You, as a human being, descendant from these primates I've been describing, you're at a level similar to pigs and anchovies. Fuck the platitude you've heard all your life, whether to justify your treatment of other species or simply to celebrate a carnivorous lifestyle. Just by a statistical calculation of your species' trophic level or rank in a food chain that no one has ever tried to rigorously apply methodologically to see exactly where humans fall, well, a group of French researchers decided to use food supply data from the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization to calculate the human trophic level, the HTL, for the first time in human history. And their findings, which were published in the Proceedings of the Natural Academy of Sciences, well, they really deflate your role in the universe. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the score of a primary producer, a plant, a primary energy producer that others eat for their sustenance, 5 being a pure apex predator, an animal that only eats meat and has few or no predators of its own, like a tiger, a crocodile, or a boa constrictor. Based on diet, humans score a 2.21, roughly equal to an anchovy or a pig. Now, these findings merely confirm common sense. You're omnivores, eating a mix of plants and animals, rather than top-level predators that only consume meat. Now, to be clear, this doesn't imply that you're middle level in that you routinely get eaten by higher-level predators. In modern society, at least, that isn't a common concern. But to be truly on top of the food chain in scientific terms, you have to strictly consume the meat of animals that are predators themselves. Now, obviously, as frequent consumers of rice and salad and bread and broccoli and cranberry sauce, among other plant products, you simply don't fit that description. And for those of you who are curious, the research was led by Sylvain Bonhomme of the French Research Institute for Exploitation of the Sea, using FAO data to construct models of people's diets in different countries over time, and using this to calculate the HTL, the human trophic level, in 176 countries from between 1961, before I was even born, to the year 2009. Calculating HTL is it's fairly straightforward. If a personal diet's made up of half plant products and half meat, then your trophic level will be 2.5. More meat, the score increases. More plants, and it decreases. So you're lower than 2.5. You're 2.21 as a statistical average worldwide. It varies with culture. But beyond culture, there's speciation. So, while your ancestors were herding animals you would eat, some of us didn't bother to herd at all. Somehow, sometime, somewhere in the bush, a savanna-ranging she-ape gave birth to a monster. He may have looked much like his fellows on the outside, but beneath it all he had a literal taste, not for fruits, nor vegetables, not even meats, but for blood. And it was that taste, and no other, which made him your first enemy, the scientific counterpoint to Cain. His tool use never developed beyond the utilitarian need to tap the human vein. He hunted his prey via adaptation of endogenous biochemicals to infuse into the bloodstreams of his victims and thereby mythify the very existence of his kind. His saliva entered your bloodstream as he took out your blood, so if you did survive the encounter, if he had to abandon you in the midst of his feed, you would be left with a mystical memory based on the dimethyltryptamine he had leaked into your system, getting you higher than a kite and even ecstatic. The myth of vampiric seduction. And yet, despite the literally imposing mnemonic abilities that evolution has gifted the vampiric subspecies, my species, in essence, a non-lethal biochemical weapon with which to throw off effective acknowledgement, let alone pursuit by our human prey throughout the millions of years of our mutual coexistence as an, well, you're our cattle. Though you probably consider us a subspecies of parasites, understand that we're the main propellant of your evolution ever since. You couldn't stay in the caves because we hunted you in the dark. And so you had to build fires so you could see us in the night. Then you had to develop, well, a night watch. Or otherwise, the ones you loved would wake up dead. Particularly the more delectable among you. Usually your children. That meant you had to develop a cycle of socialization that you otherwise never would have cultivated. We made you aware. We made you conscious. We made you what you are. But you hate us and you hunt us, just like you hunt down sharks. And that's why we hate you. And why you deserve to fucking die. But of course, we would die as well if you went extinct as a species. So, it's in our self-interest that you survive. Now, in my case, of course, I'm only a quarter vampire. And because of that, I try to educate you. Give you an example, of course. In the past, we could find some amusement in my talking about problems with bowel movements. What I try to explain to people, and of course, I understand the entertainment factor here in terms of bemusement or amusement, and downright revulsion displayed by people like Brooke Gibson, who just can't stand it and have to shut me down whenever I raise the topic, which she herself will raise at times. What I'm dealing with is not constipation. I do appreciate suggestions from people for stool softeners or various other home remedies to loosen my bowels, or even prescriptions. We're not dealing with that. I simply cannot digest the food you eat. In large part, it simply remains dormant in my system after I chew it, just sitting there without my body deriving much nourishment from it, the majority of my sustenance coming from blood. In terms of, not that I'm drinking blood very much, comparatively speaking, or statistically, I'm certainly not getting it on a daily basis by any means. The point is that when I'm eating to fill my stomach, which would otherwise growl with emptiness, when I'm simply filling it up to fool it into thinking that it's full, I'm filling it up with the wrong fuel. The fuel is not processed, and it just sits there. So that when I do have bowel movements, then it comes out, it kills the toilet. So honestly, this can all, again, be funny, amusing. It's the reality of what I contend with as not being the same species as you.
So trying to pass through chewed nuts must be painful.
It's not really, but it certainly probably would be painful to a human. It's baseline human. It's just is what it is. And so the one thing
I just wanted to ask, when you're only consuming blood, does that pass through your intestines as well, or just your kidneys?
Basically, it comes out in both the urine and the fecal matter. Which, if I were consuming blood alone, the fecal matter would look different. It would probably be a lot more gelatinous. We don't want to overdwell on this subject because we're losing numbers. I can see the numbers go down moderately. Right. Moderately. They're not going down radically. But there's obviously people who don't want to hear this, and I don't blame them.
This is important to understand the biology.
Yeah. But
vampires and daywalkers.
Yeah. But understand that my urine is a lot different from other people's urine. Give you an example, again, unpleasant topic here, the toilet. My biggest problem is black mold in the fucking toilet because my urine is so fucking sugary. It is sugary because of all the blood I drink. So it's literally so nutrient rich, the urine, and so sweet, so sugary, that black mold just grows profusely in my toilet. It is a never-ending war to get rid of it. This is literally based on my urine not being like average human beings. That wouldn't happen with an average human being. And it is not the environment of my home, believe it or not. There's an element of that, but it's really me. And so the point to be made here is that vampires' urine is like a porphyriac's. It's like somebody who has a blood problem. Their urine is purple and fluorescent for a porphyriac, somebody who has porphyria. A vampire's urine is very similar, although they're not porphyriac. Understand that vampirism is not a condition. I have people who have this misunderstanding, and they'll say, your condition. And okay, look, muscular sclerosis is a condition, okay? Something debilitative and degenerative, that's a condition. If you've got, like, lupus, that's a condition. If you've got cancer, that's a condition. Okay, vampirism is simply what I am. It is conditional, but it's not a condition. So I've found a good environment for now, but it's nothing good lasts forever. So I do try to develop a relationship with some lady at some point, move in with her, hopefully. She would not be my source of food. Understand that. The way I perceive females is, well, they're people that are potential partners that I have sex with, but my feeding is strictly with males. Now, my son is different because he was a female, physiologically born a female, but he became male, and he does request that I feed from him once in a while to confirm his masculine identity. Plus, he truly believes that he might become a vampire by my doing this. And in my case, he may not be wrong. In a normal vampire's case, that wouldn't be the case. But then I've got the phenomenon of nanoplasma. And that does transfer through my sperm, so it may well transfer through my saliva. So that means he might, well, pick up some of my conditions. He already has, as a matter of fact. He's picked up a kind of erratic, sporadic, spontaneous manifestation of Kawasaki syndrome, which he was not born with. And Kawasaki syndrome is the red eyes. My eyes at times. Now, Kawasaki syndrome, for those who don't know, it's a race-specific disease. Again, proving the reality of race. Race is quite real. It's not a construct. Different races manifest different diseases. Only blacks get sickle cell anemia.
Sickle cell.
Only Jews get certain diseases, which, in fact, there's hundreds of diseases that are specific only to Jews. When it comes to Japanese, the race-specific disease that rarely, but sometimes manifests, is Kawasaki syndrome, which, among other things, creates blood red irises. Blood red eyes. Not the iris, but the pupil. Well, yeah, the eyes, the iris. Blood red irises. The pupil, of course, remains black, generally. So, what happens in my case is I have Kawasaki syndrome that sometimes manifests the red irises. And my son began to display that. Now, his red doesn't get anywhere nearly as deep as my red, but the fact that it shows that something is transferred through either my sperm or my saliva. There's so much exchange I've had with him while he was a girl, it's hard to tell. It's impossible to ascertain. And because I still draw blood from him at times, the saliva is still going into him sporadically, once in a while. But, of course, the blood boys, the blood transfusion affiliates of the wealthy. And for those of you who don't know or are unfamiliar with the fact, the reality is you've got people who are interested in life extension, and the wealthy of Silicon Valley have found that they can enrich their physical condition and extend their lives to a degree. We don't really have the statistics in for that because, well, human beings on average live a fairly long time, and it's hard to measure the human lifespan. This is why scientists study rats, because rats have a much shorter lifespan. As a result, you can measure what happens to generations of rats fairly quickly, within a human lifetime. But we won't get the statistics in until the wealthy Silicon Valley elite begin to die. And then we'll get the statistics in as they die over the years as to how their life extension attempts are working. But the reality is they work while they're alive, in the fact that definitely their health is improved. Their quality of life is definitely impacted in a positive sense. So, it's working. And so just so that you know, the person who became rather infamous for his, use of blood boys was Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel, of course, was exposed for being very interested in young people's blood. So the way that they handle it is they adopt young people, usually orphans, but they don't want, abused orphans. They want orphans in good health. And normally, even in days like this, enlightened times, people who are disowned the most while in good health by families that are otherwise respectable and not prone towards violence or drug abuse, it's incredible. You meet, I've been in law enforcement, and when you see people who are murderers, people who are psychotics, people who are serial killers, people who are child rapists, people who are hopeless pedophiles, the one thing they all have in common is, in general, you can bet your ass their families love them. their families will be visiting them if they're on death row and say, I still love you. Their parents will rationalize everything they do. Their relations will provide them shelter and alibis for all their crimes. It's very seldom that a person breaks. It usually takes decades, if ever. That person just gets tired of what their relation is doing or is pushed to the level where they're forced to do something about it. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was finally turned in by a relation. He was never caught by any investigative process. But look how long his reign of terror was. Decades. So, this all goes out the window when some child admits they're gay. That's the only thing I've ever seen. I've seen people who are serial pedophiles, and in my life I've had to deal with all too many of them. And their parents will just say, I love you, and no one understands my son. My son only gets along with kids because no one accepts him as an adult, whatever they can come up with. But somebody comes out and says, I'm gay. Or they're caught looking at gay porn. Or they're caught with another boy in some child experiment where they're playing with each other's penises. Then you see the parent say, I don't love you anymore. I mean, for me, that's impossible to imagine. To raise a child to a certain point and then say, I don't love you anymore. To be able to turn that off like a faucet.
It's insane.
And as a vampire, I find the majority of you humans far less humanitarian than I. So, many of these are young gay boys who have been literally disowned by their parents and therefore are healthy. They've never been exposed to lives of drugs or in exposure to a corrupt world. They just basically are the easiest to adopt. Nobody wants them. And so they often wind up in the harems as blood affiliates, the transfusion affiliates, the blood boys of the Silicon Valley elite. So when it comes to these young lads, they cycle out. After a period of a few years, they're adopted, of course, as young as possible. They're raised, tutored. Tutors are hired. They're raised until they're 18 of legal age and then turned out into the world. Eminently employable because they've had the best of tutors. And I tutor history for the blood boys at the estates of the man my son married. I'm in a good position now. These young lads, their blood is sweet. They are what the gay community would call skinny, smooth twinks, effeminate, basically girly boys. The situation is good, but you always prepare for the worst. You can't expect anything good to last. You have to prepare for it not to last. I'm hoping it lasts forever, but honestly, I do have to develop a life of my own, and at some point, pair up with some lady and move in with them because I can't live here in the hoarder's crypt that I'm in with my black mold infested toilet, my collapsing fucking unfolding couch mattress, and everything else. It's an array. We're in a race to the bottom between the toilet and the mattress.
Hopefully you can pair up with a wealthy Japanese lady and you'll get Japanese citizenship.
Like I said, I'm kind of scared of that. It's really my biggest fear is going to Japan and just not being able to adapt because they're just not my mother's Japan. They're not my mother's Japan. I'm hoping someday they will become more like my mother's Japan again. But I don't know if I could just stand Japan the way it is right now. Japan is wealthy. The quality of life is high. But
low crime rate.
Oh God, crime rate doesn't even match. I mean, it's not even.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
You can leave your bike on the streets with no lock on it, and no one's gonna steal it.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, it's just people don't even begin to imagine how safe Japan is. But when it comes to It's just how do I say it? It's hedonistic. They've this isn't the old samurai spirit Japan. This is like
Right.
kind
They've
of
adopted more of the Western traditions into their civilization.
I wouldn't say that. It's
All right.
People imagine that. It's how Westerners like to flatter themselves. It's not so much that. It's more like they have just become a lot more easygoing. Their culture and their cultural imperatives are not Western. But by the way, any Westerner who's lived in Japan will tell you that, and this is why almost nobody stays in Japan. If you've ever noticed, take a look at the number of Westerners who go to Japan, how many of them stay. They can all say, you'll meet like thousands and thousands of Westerners who say, I worked in Japan. You'll meet almost none of them who have moved there. And if they have, very few have moved there for life. There's very few people who have ever adapted to Japan and been able to adapt it to the point where they say, I'm going to live here. Honestly, they could do that for a few years, do that based on a job. Almost no Westerner who goes to Japan stays there till they die. They
Right.
literally, after a while, leave. And that's because the culture is never Westernized. It's not a culture a Westerner really thrives in or can ever adapt to. It's just too different for them. And the overwhelming majority of them will never be truly accepted. They might be liked, they might be tolerated, but almost never really accepted. It's like, take a look at Japan. It's a bit more common than it ever was before, but do you ever see, like, mixed race couples living in Japan? Sure.
Oh, no. It's very rarely.
Yeah, it's rare. It's a bit more common now than it was before, but most of them, the Japanese woman will move with the foreigner she's married back to another country, wherever the foreigner came from.
Right.
They're not going to be at the point where the foreigner who marries the Japanese man or woman stays in Japan. That's extraordinarily rare, comparatively speaking. Mostly, if a Japanese marries another race, they'll move out of Japan.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely still very homogenous. Many foreigners there, but they're workers. They're workers. They may not all be scut labor. You get Filipinos, Asian Indians, Persians, like doing more of the, low grade work. There's plenty of other Asian Indians and Americans, Europeans working there with the more white collar work, but you're still basically labor. Sure, they make some people CEOs of their companies, and then look what happens to them. You had the one fucker who, the Japanese then arrested, blaming him for the failure of the company, and they arrested his ass and put him in jail. And he was smuggled out by a special forces team of father and son, escaped to Lebanon. We can look the fucker up. But the special forces Green Beret veteran and his son were arrested by the Japanese. Matter of fact, they demanded the United States turn them over. And the Americans turned them over. And the Japanese put them in Japanese prison. So the other guy's stuck in Lebanon. Let me see. CEO escaped from Japan to Lebanon. And okay, Carlos Ghosn, Ghosn. Born in Brazil to Lebanese parents, scaled the corporate ladder to the very top of the global industry to be crowned head of Renault and Nissan before suffering a spectacular downfall, arrested in Japan, and in a dramatic finale, escaping in a box to freedom in Beirut. Fuck, if that's freedom, you can fucking have it. Anyhow, here's ex-Nissan boss, Carlos Ghosn, how I escaped Japan in a box. Yeah, he had two special forces mercenaries, a father and son, but they wound up being turned over by their own American government to the Japanese. Tells you who won the fucking war. So, I mean, like, do you think that if the Japanese lost the war, they'd be able to demand Americans turn over a military veteran to spend his life in a Japanese prison along with his son? There you go. Shows you who won the fucking war. Michael Taylor. Yeah. Smuggled gon out of Japan ahead of his trial for financial crimes, then ended up in prison. Now he's demanding, Gon's daring escape cost his extraction crew their freedom. In effect, their lives. You know, now Carlos Ghosn is trying to sue the Japanese. You know, good fucking luck. At any rate, so there you go. His wife Maya, or was it his daughter Nadine? Basically the Japanese wouldn't let him see either one. I think they let him see his daughter because they gave him the benefit of the doubt and figured he wouldn't be fucking her. Yeah, probably gave him too much credit. They wouldn't let him see his wife because they didn't want him having sex while he was under house arrest. Oh shit. Yeah, anyhow, so 2 Americans get prison over Nissan executive's escape. Yeah, come on, tell me you guys won the war when you see the American government turn over 2 guys to the Japanese. Anyhow, our man Acid Kick 96 says, so true, DDD, insanely sad, thank you. So he's speaking, of course, of the young gay boys who become blood boys in the harem of many of these Silicon Valley moguls who then give them the best potential for life, a good chance in life that they've got, and most of them have gone on to success. Certainly the ones I'm teaching, I'm sure, will have as much impact on the world as some girly boy ever can. But I definitely want people to understand that I take my job seriously, try to tutor them the way I try to educate yourselves. But do understand this. I'm a higher order of being than you. I am at least a quarter vampire, and therefore at least higher on the food scale than you are. The food that I do eat, when it's not blood, is for the taste. It's to satisfy the hunger pangs of an otherwise empty stomach, and my stomach does get full, but that doesn't mean I'm fed. In other words, it gives me the delusion of being full, but I'm not deriving any sustenance from what's inside my stomach, which just passes out later as pretty solid turds, and the rest of the time I'm malnourished, which is why I have to supplement.
I want to ask, does animal blood at all is suitable as a substitute, or
No.
does it just have to be human blood?
It has to be human.
All right.
Yeah, that's what our species evolved for. And otherwise, humans would never have been pursued because the animals would be easier, right?
Right.
So, just understand that I have to supplement heavily. This is another reason I need your money, your contribution. So I want everyone to understand that I have to buy a lot of supplements. So remember, I'm not getting blood every day. This will be a good month for me because I'll be spending a lot of time at the estates through the end of this month and the beginning of next month. But generally speaking, I do not feed regularly enough. As a result, it shows up more than anything else in my nails. And the nails get ridged and begin to split. I mean, that's really bad. That's like what happens to a human being when they spend months in a hospital. And hospital food is shit, and they come out essentially malnourished, and their nails split. They become very brittle. So they bend back easily, very painfully. I'm doing a lot better now thanks to very expensive supplements that help me through the dry spells when I'm not getting human blood, accessing the blood boys and the like. When I do access them, yeah, their blood's sweet. At the same time, remember that I see them generally on holidays, almost exclusively on holidays. Not exclusively, but almost. And the problem there is that that means that there's a lot of food around. And don't think I don't eat it, because it tastes good. So I do eat a lot of food I don't need when I'm in the environment of the estates. Who couldn't? I mean, who wouldn't? The end result is, of course, that I not only get the blood, I also get a bunch of other crap in my stomach that I'm not digesting that I wind up that winds up being shit out later. So it's I'm in a sense I'm in the same boat. It's not the same, but you get my point. There you have that. But I need water because the water in this home is not potable. I can't even call it a home. It's a fucking storage room that I happen to crash in and work out of. And I can't. Some people have asked me. I have gotten some emails tonight asking, why don't you just do your transmissions from the estate? Okay, we don't want to compromise the security of the estates. So understand, wherever I'm at, they attack the transmission. We don't want them attacking the estates. We're trying to sever the estates from their attacks as much as possible. And we haven't really succeeded in that. There was one estate that was burned down during the fires that were raging in California a few years ago, and we know it was arson. And those fires were all set by Republican insurgents coming into California, which is a deeply blue state. And this was when Trump was president, was swearing not to support California in our wildfires. You might remember the tremendous problem we had with Trump. He wouldn't give the state of California emergency funding for the wildfires. And as president, he was trying to burn up California, and he was sending men in here. There were men who were arrested who specifically said they were under orders from Donald Trump to burn the state down. So understand that we're in civil war already. People don't realize that. And I should probably turn my monologue towards that direction. You don't want to let Ian hear that. Yeah. Yeah.
He just won't stop sucking Trump's dick.
Yeah, it's terrible. By the way, David Reed says ego. If you're talking about my saying that I'm a higher order of species than you, David Reed, that's not ego. That's a fact.
I think he's talking about Acid Kick's comment about people disowning their kids for being gay.
I don't think so. I don't think he would call that ego. I think I'm pretty on top of the situation here in terms of interpreting what he's saying. David Reed.
Isn't David Reed a friend on Facebook?
Might be. I don't remember the name. Seems new to me. So if he's new, he may not be.
I gotta quickly check. I swear I saw that name.
Yeah. Go ahead and check. Thank you. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, David Reed. Yeah, he's on my friends. He sent me a friend request a while ago, and I think he's friends with you.
Maybe. I don't remember the name consciously. But let's put it this way. Okay, David Reed. So he is a friend on Facebook, but David, get it. Just live with it. Roll with it because it's true. You and I are a different species, David. The idea of competition is absurd. Can human beings kill vampires? Yes, they can also kill sharks. They can also kill tigers. They can also kill crocodiles. Yeah, you could even make souvenirs of our teeth and our skins like you do with these other animals. But in the end, that doesn't move you any higher up the evolutionary scale. You're still on the level of an anchovy or a pig. You just happen to be exploiting a technological weapon that you use to take out this other higher order of species, the apex predator, and then feel better about yourself. And that's all you're doing. You might delude yourself that you are somehow moving up on the evolutionary chain by doing that, but you aren't. And your children will be still eating as many plants and lower animals as you do. They'll never progress to the point where they're living off other human beings' blood. So you're stuck, in a sense, but you're evolving in the sense of how we terrorize you. The reason that I talk, and people ask these ignorant questions earnestly, they're still ignorant. They really make no sense. Like, well, won't the vampires be angry at you for betraying them? Dude, you're talking about a species of primate that, if you were to encounter one, is like an autistic human being. They're on a developmental level where they're geared towards predation. That's all they do. They think about their next meal. It would be like talking, the closest thing you could get to it would be a human serial killer. Someone on a pathological scale where there's no meaningful communication. If you were to speak to a serial killer, do you actually believe that you're going to enter into a deep philosophical discussion that would enrich your life? You would get nothing out of them. They exist to hunt you down, even though they're not feeding. They're not a speciation. They're a pathological deviant. But with a vampire who truly has to feed on you, by their very nature, they're not going to be saying anything that you would find intellectually compelling. I'm only a quarter vampire, so I can do that. And because of that, I've taken it on myself to speak for them. It's somewhat analogous. All parallels are imperfect, but it's somewhat analogous to the Wrong Turn franchise. If you ever see the Wrong Turn franchise, they're deformed mutants, morbidly inbred in the Appalachians or the Ozarks, where industries were dumping toxic waste. And then they have one brother who's human looking, even attractive, and can actually speak for them. And so he lures people into a hotel for them to cannibalize. So I'm not doing that because that's not something I need to do. My vampire relations are perfectly capable of fending for themselves and avoiding you. But because I can speak for them in a special sense, it would be spelled the same as special. In a special sense, I speak for them because they cannot speak for themselves. Quite literally cannot speak for themselves. Because at a certain level, they're animalistic. You would use the term feral. But you say that they're a higher order. They are. They feed on you. So they're higher up on the food chain. That doesn't make them great conversation. At any rate, I, on the other hand, am. And therefore consider yourself lucky to be exposed to what I have to say. So Acid Kick 96 says, are there any friendly vampires that could bring me along on the vampire trip? I always wanted to be a vampire. Oh, that doesn't sound very nice. Never mind. I'm just an Anne Rice fan. There we are. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. What most people are attracted to is a romantic vision of the vampire, which is not the reality of the vampire. So
from all the movies and TV shows they watch, they think they're a vampire, they're going to have superhuman abilities and look real sexy and shit.
Well, vampires do look physically fit. They would probably be considered sexy. That's part of, first off, they're physically fit because they have to be to take down human beings on a regular basis.
Oh, I meant like where they make them out to be able to transport into a big amount of bats, you know, like the human body just disappears into a cloud of bats and all that shit.
By the way, I mean. as ridiculous as that is, that's a result of when vampires feed on human beings, as I said, what they secrete through their saliva into the human bloodstream in return is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, combined with some other biochemical elements, and they provide a mental suggestion to the victim that they are doing just that. This is what has happened historically, and why victims who have survived their attacks, say, for instance, people hear a noise, people see something, what's going on there? Are those two gay guys making out, or is that guy sucking that other guy's blood? And let's investigate. If they come upon the feeding and the vampire has to leave, he rushes off. But when they speak to the victim, most of the time the victim will say something like, he turned into a bat and flew away. He turned into European culture would say a voron, a raven, and flew away. This is a common image implanted in their mind through suggestion. So it's not that is wrong. It's simply that people have taken that literally. They've taken that literally. Of course, that's the success of the vampire subspecies. It empowers them, mystifies them, and people say that's physically impossible, and then they stop looking for them. Get the point? It works! So, there you have it. In that sense, they may as well have turned into a bunch of bats and swarmed away, because this is what makes people stop hunting them, what makes people say, oh, that's so ridiculous, they don't even bother to look for them, then it's an evolutionary success. See my point? So there we are. And so understand that this is what the blood boys get when I take their blood. They get high as kites and they love it. By the way, our man Acid Kick 96 says tryptamine. Tryptoline? No, you spelled it right the first time. Dimethyltryptamine. Wait a second. Or is it tryptoline? Now you've got me fucked up. Okay. All right. Look that up just here. All right, so here we are. I'll enter it into the chat room here. And so it's actually, so people understand the full name of it, it is this. So it's N, N dimethyltryptamine. So DMT or N, N dash DMT would be the acronym. So let me put this into the chat room for you. And there we are. As for David Reed, hopefully he doesn't hold it against me, what I've said. You'd be amazed, again, at human beings. You see, human beings hate finding out they're not the masters of the universe. And a lot of them will hate me personally for what I'm saying. If you hate me for what I'm saying, you're a fool. It's like if you, say for instance, a lion could talk. Do you think a lion would feel that you're a higher order of being than he? No. He would feel you definitely the lower order of being. And would that hurt your emotions? Probably not, because he doesn't look like you. The reason you hate me when I feed you these facts is because I look like you, to a degree at least. And therefore, you get angry. But you look like me. You're not better than me. You're not a higher order of being than me. That's your communistic fantasy of egalitarianism. And it's stupid in the first place, because even among humans, someone's got to be in charge. There is no such thing as egalitarianism. You could, meet people like actors, the wealthy, and they could be friendly to you and say, we're all equal human beings and we all have inalienable rights. But if someone were to attack them, the law would respond much more quickly and much more aggressively in their case than they would for you.
Yep.
They're not equal. Human beings are not equal. There are those among you that ultimately rule. Someone has got to be in charge. There's any communist societies which supposedly manifest, or at least try to live out the fantasy of egalitarianism, are always cults of personality. Whenever you analyze communism, it's under the form of which dictator was enforcing the rules upon his subjects. It's called Maoism, Leninism, Stalinism, Titoism, Castroism. These are all the different forms of communism. It's a form of personality cult. Whoever takes over and enforces themselves with the greatest degree of aggression. As Acid Kick 96 says, there's no such thing as equality. So give it up. If you believe in equality, you're
That's
an
why
idiot.
there's hierarchy.
Yes, it's that simple. Now, is it fair? No. Do I believe in a more just society? If your society were a meritocracy, people would at least be taking my advisements on their merits. Instead, your society suppresses me with every iota of energy that it has. I'm the most suppressed person on earth. Your society doesn't want you to know what I'm even sharing with you. And then when you hear it directly, and you get angry and say, ego! Well, then you've proven yourself society's fool. You're so indoctrinated by society that you reject the message I have to give. Now, you might find this ego as well, but that's what they did to Christ. Am I like Christ? No. I'm not Christ-like in the general sense at all. But look what they did to Christ. They didn't like his message. And who killed him? Not the Roman Empire. Not Pontius Pilate. The public killed him. When the public was given the choice, and Pontius Pilate said, do you want this man Christ to be killed who has done no wrong? Or do you want Barabbas, a thief and a murderer, a terrorist, to be killed? Which do you take? And the public said, give us Barabbas. This is historical. Pontius Pilate said, I wash my hands of this. This is why he was in charge. Why the Romans were in charge. They were better people than the mob. The mob was shit. And they chose to kill Christ. It was the people's choice. The people don't rate respect. So, there are better minds than the average mind. There are better bodies than the average body. And just as you give leeway to an athlete and respect them for what's physically obvious, then you need to do that intellectually. You probably would. You take a look at some poor bastard like Stephen Hawking in his wheelchair, speaking through any electronic mechanism. And you'd say, I acknowledge this man, his intelligence, because you couldn't conceptualize half of what he does. But then you have to understand that, well, there's people out there who, in a special sense, are better than you. I'm just naturally better than you. So listen to me, and your world will be a better place. I have every interest in your world being a better place, because I feed off you. And it's like they say, good milk comes from happy cows. Good blood comes from happy lads. But blood boys are happy lads. Yeah, go on.
A good quote from Stephen Hawking. The thing about smart people is that they seem like crazy people to dumb people.
Thank you. Thank you. Or egotistical. To dumb people. Can you blame a smart person for basically finally just losing control and calling you all a bunch of idiots after, speaking for out his life, and all people respond to is, I don't get it. A good example is Dostoevsky's novel, The Idiot. That's the title of the novel. And it's this mildly retarded individual in a village who some dudes from Moscow University come by and say, let's take this mildly retarded village idiot and make him, let's see if the bowl, the average developmentally disabled person's bowl is smaller. But that doesn't mean it can't be filled to the brim. Your average person may have a bigger bowl in terms of a capacity for knowledge retention, but they never bother to fill it at all. So they took the idiot to Moscow University and educated him with all their efforts, and then he goes back to the village and is able to talk in depth and at length about the stars and cosmology and physical forces that you can't even see, but nevertheless affect you like gravity. And people can't understand a word he's saying, so they say, God, he's a fucking idiot. So in other words, you can't win. It's the idiot comes back as the smartest man in the village, no longer the village idiot, but the village genius, but people still call him an idiot because they can't grasp or understand anything he's saying anyway. So what's the point? It's, that's where you're at with your average people. Pearls before swine. And so they try to rationalize it by saying, no, the problem's you. Like, it's you, Douglas. It's your ego. No, it's not me. It's you. It's your ego. Your ego. Because you can't take it that, in a special sense, I'm better than you. That the idea of competition is absurd. Yes, you could conceivably kill me, as you could a shark or a lion. But if anything, you're degrading yourself, because you're killing a higher order of being. Most people, if you were to see a man kill a whale or a shark or a lion, would you admire the man who did it? Most of you would hold him in contempt. Am I wrong? It would be the same with someone who ever succeeded in killing myself. You're simply destroying something better than you. And it doesn't uplift you. If anything, you've sunk to a whole new low. So, in terms of that, I'd better get into some speaking about the more contemporary situation.
Monologuing.
Yeah, monologue. I might take a short break. Let me see. I'll consider this. Should I take a short break before I do that, or should I just dive right into it? And with yourself, you've been up for a while. Will you be able to hang for as long as you can, just to?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let me know if you start fading, and I'll go on for basically as long as I can stand it. Try to give people an analysis. Try to earn my pay, so I do want people to understand. As a matter of fact, I want people to know that we are still in MONTAUK week, that MONTAUK week, Biorhythmic week, lasts until Wednesday. It lasts until, basically Wednesday. And that's when Peter Moon returns. The Oban Matsuri, the Lantern Festival, which is basically the Soreki, the ancestral spirit season. This is Japanese Halloween week, and that will last until Peter Moon returns. It'll last till Wednesday. So basically, I want people to know that the Oban Matsuri, the Soreki, the ancestral spirit season this year, falls exactly in line with the MONTAUK Biorhythmic week. So that's pretty radical already. As soon as I finish doing the analysis, I'm going to take off. And at that point, I'll let my son know I'm available for pickup. So my monologue shouldn't be too long. I don't want to put that off for too long. Then I'll be gone until I return pretty much when Peter returns, which will be on Wednesday. So Peter Moon and I will be coming back at the same time, essentially, but I'll be going on transmission, whereas Peter Moon will be crashing. I want to be careful about what we say there. I don't want to jinx him and cause his plane to crash. So he'll be crashing in bed.
I'm sure he has protection. Spiritual protection.
He does. And I do want people to know that today is it's National Financial Awareness Day. So if you don't believe me, you can look that up. So today is National Financial Awareness Day. I want you all to just kind of let that sink in. Let me see what I remember about it, because it's not exactly, obviously, a commonly known holiday. I know of it because I once worked with the U.S. government, And so a lot of these causes become holidays that, they have to have the government approve of them or they won't make it. So it's an approved holiday. It's obviously not a federal holiday in the sense that everybody gets time off. But I do want people to know that the government wants people to be fiscally aware. And therefore, because of the need for you to be fiscally aware, be cognizant of the fact that I need your financial aid in order to survive. And this is, of course, another aspect to my predatory nature, you could say. And if you are a proper munching herd, then you should provide me money the way that sheep provide wool for the people who herd them. Nothing I'm saying here is meant to insult you. It's meant to, if anything, appeal to your better nature. Understand that in the end, I am obligated to protect you. I may not be able to do that personally, but I do want to protect your species out of my own selfish interest. So, in terms of financial independence, basically, financial awareness day, I'll be telling the blood boys at the estate that, for them, I'll try to explain how student loans work if they want to get a higher education, like in postgraduate studies, how to get a student loan alternatives, the FAFSA, FAF, SA income limits, what work study is, how a person can get it. But if you think of somebody who lavishly spends money like they did in the Great Gatsby novel, or maybe you're saving for retirement but uncertain where every penny is going, or like me, you simply live from paycheck to paycheck. Whatever your financial situation might be, it's time to look at the big picture and commit to becoming more aware of your spending. Now, most of us like to wait until our birthday or the new year to plan our finances, but today's a great time to start. August 14th is National Financial Awareness Day. It's a good reminder to take investing and saving seriously to build financial stability and prepare for the future. Actually, I don't know the origins of this holiday, but I do know that the aim of it is to develop and instill good financial practices that will solidify a person's current financial status and serve them through retirement. Investing will make money do the work for us, which will result in less time spent working and leave more time for us to enjoy our lives. David Ravitch, a senior accounting lecturer at the University of California, Los Angeles, who I consulted about this holiday not too long ago, basically said that we live in a world of financial illiteracy. What he means is that most of us do not possess the knowledge and skills that are necessary to make informed and effective financial decisions with our existing financial resources. Now, it seems overwhelming, but everyone has the capacity to learn sound financial principles and save up. Just making small changes to our daily habits can reap great financial benefits. Finances can be quite straightforward once we distinguish our wants from our needs and take inventory of our spending. Now, maybe joining an investment or money management club or consulting a financial advisor is encouraged, and books and blogs on personal finance should be promoted. I would say that from what I learned when I consulted the professor, David Ravitch of Los Angeles, UCLA, about this subject, he gave me some of the numbers. I'm going to share them with you now. By the numbers, 58% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved. I, myself, have nothing. But remember, I'm not a human being, technically. I'm like one of those vampiroid predators who basically lives off you. Now, 8% of the percentage of U.S. citizens who, well, they believe they'll never recover from the recession. The average emergency savings that millennial Americans have is about $2,000. 20% of Americans don't save any of their annual income. 100%, 50% of American households live paycheck to paycheck. No different from myself. 32% of American families maintain a household budget. The rest don't. The total credit card debt held by Americans is $1 trillion United States dollars. Unimaginable. The percentage of Americans who don't have enough cash to cover even a $400 emergency is 44%. The percentage of millennials who demonstrate any basic financial literacy is measured at 24%, less than a quarter of the millennial generation. The percentage of student loan borrowers who aren't making any payments is 40%. Now, the amount saved by woman in the year 2020, the last time this was measured, against $1 saved by men is 68 cents, a decrease from 70 cents in 2019. This is sourced from a report by the LT Trust. So, Financial Awareness Day is a necessity. If you want to know how to observe it, there's 3 things I can think of immediately. First, invest. Got some money burning a hole in your pocket? Instead of spending it on some fleeting luxury, why not get in on some of that sweet return on investment action? Very rarely do you get a chance to spend your money on something that gives a bit back. Well, unless you take a trip to Vegas, but those odds are for suckers. In the end, playing it safe is always sexier than spending it all. So use National Financial Awareness Day as an excuse to start investing. It's sure to pay off. Take a trip to the U.S. Mint. I mean, what better way is there to celebrate money than finding out how it's made? That's what I'll be doing with the Blood Boys. There's 4 United States Mint locations. Philadelphia, Denver, the city and county of my own Golden Gate at San Francisco, where I'll be taking the Blood Boys to, and West Point. Your military's manufacturing your money. Now, if pennies aren't quite as pretty as paper to you, head down to the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, the BEP. Not only do they offer tours and rare currency products, but you can take any of those ratty dollars that accidentally got tossed in the dryer and redeem them for free. How's that for smart money? So, the third thing I can think of is getting smart about your money, period. National Financial Awareness Day is the perfect opportunity to make a budget. Now, I know it's not an attractive task, but it's so important. Find out where you spend your money by making a spreadsheet or using one of the many online services and apps that will do it for you. The numbers may shock you, but that's okay. Knowledge is power. In terms of why Financial Awareness Day is important, what I'll tell the blood transfusion affiliates of my son's husband's Arim is, well, it celebrates Easy Street, which they're on for the present moment of their lives while under his care, my tutelage. As the saying goes, why work for your money when you can make it work for you? Sometimes in the seemingly endless race to chase that paper, we forget that we don't always need to take the uphill course. And with the right knowledge, you can make the road to riches far less bumpy, a lot more scenic. Sound investment practices can help you spend less time working and more time enjoying your life. National Financial Awareness Day teaches us that finances don't have to be confusing. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and if there's one thing most people are clueless about, it's fucking finance. There's no downside to having a bit of financial literacy in life. It's a subject many people find daunting, but taking the initiative to learn how money works will make all your peers green with envy. Just like everyone flocks to that one mechanically inclined friend when their car breaks down. You'll be that guy. Or girl. But for the money. Plus, when your car breaks down, you can just buy a better one. And finally, I would say that National Financial Awareness Day is important because it reminds us to prepare for the unforeseeable future. They say money can't buy you happiness. Perhaps. But not having money can sure bring you a lot of sadness. That's why it's so important to make sound investment decisions now, so you're not suffering later. You never know what kind of pitfalls life may throw your way, but there's no better safety net than having a nice contingency fund in your pocket. Now remember, you're a human being. This is thinking for you. I don't process like this because I depend on you. I depend on your blood, and I depend on your money. So do contribute that to me for Financial Awareness Day. And, and if anyone asks a stupid question, again, like I'm getting in my email, why don't the blood boys give you money? Okay, look, they're kept lads, you idiot. They don't have money of their own. It's like they're living in an orphanage, except it's nice. They don't have spending money. They're fed and they're housed. And in return, they give their very blood, willingly. Willingly, I can't even get it out.
Did David Reed send you that?
No, thank God. If he did it under some false name and address. Some of these people, their questions are sincere and earnest. They don't mean disrespect, but they're so stupid. I don't want to embarrass them by calling them out and naming them. It's like right. You feel sorry for them. They're pitiful. It's like how did these people even live to be? I don't know what age they are, but they're old enough to hit the keyboard. How did they even live to be that age? I don't know. It's anyhow. So let's look at it this way. I want you to all to understand that I've been here 2.5 hours. We've maintained good numbers. And Ego Trip 96 has been fabulous in his support, and online. And I know, here's the tragedy. Take a look at the ladies who were with us earlier. Take a look at Carmela. Take a look at Amy Como. The majority of my listeners, I realize, for all intents and purposes, live in tent cities. These two ladies, one has been homeless the majority of her life. Amy Como. Michelle Carmela Saldana has been pretty much the same, in the same case as Amy Como. Really, they're pretty much both people who have found fairly stable situations for themselves as effectively homeless people. They're doing okay for themselves, comparatively speaking, but they're in situations you wouldn't want to be in. The majority of people listening to me are in that situation. But I want you to understand that those of you who can afford it, give. Believe me, I need it. I need it for something as basic as water. So what I'm going to spend on water this month, when I hit Trader Joe's, depends on what they've got in stock. But whatever they've got in stock of Gerolsteiner water, which is bottled, I'm buying all of it. So that could be as much as $300 to $400. I couldn't believe the price that I saw that Brandon Young showed me, which was $150 for a 15 bottle case. If that's the case, I could be spending up to $1,000 on my water supply. So it's like then I'll have to make rent after that. Either way, I'm going to need your help. So I'm going to bring Amy Como on now. And our man Acid Trip 96. I like Acid Kick. Yeah, it is Acid Kick. Acid Kick 96 says, Douglas, if I could, I absolutely would. I get it. Look, I get it. And I understand I'm not getting anything from Amy Como either in terms of pocket change. But, what matters is your moral support. But those of you who can't afford $1, by God, you'd better give it just for the sake of your own fucking karma. Otherwise, you'll degenerate into that bug life I talked about when you die, and you'll sink to the lower vibrations because you're small. There's got to be a bit of largesse in your life to earn your way to a higher level of vibration. Let's put it this way. The churches were always asking for tithe for a reason. It's not just a ripoff, and they're not just a bunch of assholes who are like preying on you. There's that. But the reality is, if you don't learn to give, you're not worthy of getting. It's as simple as that. And for those of you who never learn to give, well, you're never going to grow. And that's a fact of life. It's physics. It's simple physics, people. I'll give you an example. By the way, Amy Como joins us. Say good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
Hey, honey. Love you dearly. This is perfect. Yeah, go on. Go on, darling.
It sounds like you had an interesting night. You got a different thumbnail up.
Yes. And that's a Biofax. One of my Biofax simulacra. And
were they both Biofax simulacra?
No. The other one is me. That's me. And the other one is the one up now is Biofax. The one that was up earlier is me. And but when it comes to you sound almost disappointed when I said
I just feel like if I were to meet you at certain points, I wouldn't recognize you at all.
You might not. Remember what I said. If any average person who meets a celebrity, somebody who's in the movies, you have no idea. The majority of you, if you met the average celebrity that you see on television that looks so sexy and so everything under that wave of makeup and cosmetics and wigs that people wear, which I also take advantage of, you would not recognize them on the street. Take a look at Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is a California boy. He goes up and down the West Coast, the Pacific Coast of the United States, in this stupid little rock band of his. And nobody recognizes him. Keanu Reeves, people think looks hot and sexy when he's in the movies, like when he's playing, you know why he wears that beard in the John Wick films? Because his face is so fucking ugly with pox scars. That guy is gruesome. The first thing you'd say if you met him and realized that he was Keanu Reeves is, how did this ugly son of a bitch become a sex symbol? This guy's ugly as fuck. He had a bad case of acne. His face is full of pox scars. He's this skinny looking Amerasian guy. For those of you who don't know, he's half Asian. And his greatest talent is in presenting the persona of an empty vacuum so that people project their own fantasies onto him. He's an empty vessel who appears empty on stage. This is why in The Matrix he was the perfect person for the role. He just stands there and goes, whoa. And people project a personality into him, usually their own personality, and they identify with that empty vessel that they're projecting their own personality into. That is the service that he provides. So when you encounter him and you see this unrecognizable, short, Eurasian, or Amerasian, just ugly looking pock-faced dude, you'd say, this can't be the hero from The Matrix. This can't be John Wick. Okay, so if you met me, which of course people have, Sammy Romero, for instance, I think you'd be impressed enough. You'd certainly never forget me, meeting me once physically. I stand out like a sore thumb, but I may not look as pretty as I do when my son takes the photographs and we've got all the makeup and at times hair extensions. the kind of partial wigs that we can use to provide a different kind of hairline. I take advantage of these things, no doubt, but definitely it's not like I'm anywhere near as much of a disappointment as almost 99% of the other celebrities you'd meet. I can guarantee you that. But yeah, when it comes to the point I was trying to make about before that, before I go on a bit any more, honey, tell us a bit about how your day's going. After you left us last night, how was sleep? How's your morning? How's Kala?
I slept pretty good.
Kayla, yeah.
Kala's good. She just let the dogs out. I heard them all in their fury to get free and to run. Yeah, I have somebody coming to pick me up in a couple hours, so I need to get ready to go into Burlington. And then
for Burlington, what's going on in Burlington?
I'm still trying to get that laparoscopy, so I need my doctor had gone to a different office and she wasn't available, and then I wasn't available, and so I have to meet with her in order to set it up. And she had agreed last July that I should continue to try to get it, but I just don't know. I don't know how it's all going to work out. It's hard for me to imagine starting a job and then being like, oh, by the way, next week I need 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
That's sort of the trick of it is I need more time to deal with that and then to start somewhere and tell them I can't really start for a month. But yeah, I can't not do it. So it's really just the necessity of it is I'm doing it today on financial planning day.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think that's great.
In my case, yeah.
Go on.
In my case, the homelessness was always just a precipice. It was never I always had a place to go, but I just really I have these ideas about what I want, and sometimes the options that I have are not going to get me what I want. So yeah, mainly it's just been that I'm that I'm traveling all over the place and I'm doing all this different stuff, and a lot of times that means you're having a couch sit because you don't have a paycheck, or you're not always available for work either. In my case, I had a lot of injury along the way too. I know I mentioned before I've had 2 car wrecks, and car wrecks are pretty great ways to find out who you really are, to really discover all that stuff that was important is not really that important, and I need other stuff in my life that makes me feel better.
That's awful. You never really went into detail about this. What exactly happened with both these car wrecks?
Yeah, so, we're talking about celebrities. So I lived with Chris Pratt for a year in 1999. We were doing, it was in the time of his life where he really he doesn't like to go back to. But
what's he famous for? What's he a celebrity of? What was he famous?
He's a big comedian. He's just such a lovable guy. He did, what did I just watch? The Magnificent Seven. He did The Avengers.
He was in these films? Wow.
Yeah.
What was his character? He was in the latest Magnificent Seven, the one with the black guy as the major lead, right?
Washington. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which character was he?
He was started with an F.
What was his character like? The big guy with the beard, the little Asian guy with the knives, or the guy?
Oh, he's always plays the sex throb. He's always the cute one. He's so beautiful.
Was that the guy who died? Was that the one who died in the film? Who with the dynamite he threw at the Gatling gun?
Maybe I didn't watch it till the end the last time, but. Okay. Yeah, he's got like blondish red hair. He's just this big comedian. It's all one-liners. He was just cracking jokes the whole thing, which is what he does. Like, he's not really acting. That's who he is. He, on the other hand, is somebody, if you see him in public, you will recognize him because he does look that good.
Okay.
But he's so we were doing this like door-to-door sales. Like, some of them would be spas. Like, you would just walk in and you'd present like this coupon, like, oh, this spa down the road is offering this coupon to their neighbors, and like it would be like $150 for all these different services. And I'd make a lot of money on the spa packages, but they also had like oil changes, like 4 oil changes for $20, and the dudes usually did well with those. I didn't, but
Go on.
yeah, it was all coupons. It was door-to-door cold calling coupons, and it was freaking miserable work. Like, you had to be out there no matter what every day. And we both hated it, but I loved him so much. Like, he was such a good dude. And when I came back from that kind of post-Tulane excursion where I was out of college and I was living with the old roommate in Colorado for a while, and then I had my own place, and that didn't work out. I put all my money into this apartment where they wouldn't turn the hot water on.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any hot water in winter in Colorado. And so that, yeah.
Yeah,
and so I
that's
ended up
fucking...
living with Chris.
Yeah, that's unlivable. Go on. Yes.
Yeah, so I was living with Chris on the floor in the apartment on Federal and Colfax in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved back to Vermont because I just was like sick of it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't find housing. I'm like working till late and then having to ride the bus back, which was horrible with, all the drunks and drug addicts yeah, it was bad. So I just bought a flight back to Vermont, and then I got into a wreck driving north on 89 where a giant tractor trailer pushed me off to the side onto a guardrail. The guardrail held us. So my injuries from that were just mainly like the whiplash and trauma of gripping the wheel as the truck hit. Yeah, and it kind of like ran over the top end of the Toyota I was in. Like, the tires of the 18-wheeler were on the hood. Yeah, that was really frightening. And then I got into a production job for the local news station. So I was driving at night down to Burlington to do the camera for the newscast. And it was raining, and this car just like ran a stop sign and hit me. And that was where I got all the scars on my face. I got the 150 stitches in my face. And that was in 2000. So I really like those injuries are not significant anymore. Like, I'm not really suffering from that because I had to do all this work around healing. I had to deal with the scar tissue. I had to deal with the fact that you're a woman and you have all these scars on your face is really, an interesting way to kind of deal with people, like, because people in your life, sometimes they just like you because you're beautiful and you can attract other beautiful people, and they, like you say, they glom onto you, parasite onto you to kind of, make it feel like they're making something from themselves, but it's really so false. It's so empty, so vain.
Yeah.
And so when something like that happens, you start to realize who's really worth knowing. And so that really changed the trajectory of what I was about. And that was a long time ago.
I'm so sorry. I mean, this is incredible. I never knew anything about this. If you brought it up, I didn't absorb it. But
you were tired. I think you were too tired when I told you.
Probably. But I mean, I'm getting it all in now, and you've been through so much. You're so admirable. I really admire you and respect you for just managing to survive with these disadvantages that have been foisted upon you by these accidents, the scarring on your face, which I've personally seen your face, and I would never have guessed. I would never have guessed you had the most I notice is silver gray hair and a chipped tooth. It's
I got that fixed. That's sorted. They fixed the tooth.
They fixed
That's
the
done.
tooth. Oh my fucking
No
god!
more fang.
Well,
I
cool.
liked the fang. I liked the way it like sliced stuff.
No.
But I couldn't leave it. It had to be fixed. I couldn't leave it like that.
Yeah. It's
No,
just for the sake of everyone else. Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to point out that I don't think it's normal. Like, I don't think that the things that have happened to me are what other people have to go through.
No.
I don't think that other people have to endure the same kind of abuses.
No.
And I feel like part of it is to just drive you insane. And so by having a good life and having, time to do things that I want to do instead of just doing things that other people tell me I need to do. Like, these are the real treasures, and these are the things that really annoy the enemy is when you're enjoying yourself and when you're having a really good life.
It's true.
That's what really brings them back with a fury.
It's true. Living well is the best revenge. And the Edomites, the worshippers of entropy, they hate that. They really hate that. And their entire purpose in life is to try and make you miserable. This is what I spoke of with the kind of bug life that they become on death. And that's an insult to bugs, really. Honestly, honey, I'm impressed that you've made it through this. But no, I would never have guessed about all these scars. How many did you say? How many stitches?
150 stitches in my face.
Oh my god!
And then they had to put my ankle back on. Like I'd wrapped my foot. Yeah, I'd wrapped my foot around the brake and it had fallen off.
Oh!
So the whole foot was detached.
Oh!
Yeah, isn't this fun? Let's just gross everybody out first thing in the morning. Yeah. No, they pulled me out and the foot stayed in the car. They had to take
but
it.
you can walk now. You can bike.
I know. I do all kinds of stuff, don't I? Fuck them.
Yeah,
that's right.
Incredible. I'm so impressed. Oh my fucking god.
You healed real well.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to commit to letting go of your disability. Like, it's hard to say, you know what, that isn't me. Like, I don't care if they think I'm never going to do whatever again. I'm going to do things that make me feel good, and I'm going to make choices for myself that protect me. You have to feel safe. First of all, you have to feel safe. And sometimes for me, it's like getting uncomfortable so that there's like that protection of I've done something that's kind of out of the ordinary and therefore they can't really plan around it. So, there's that, like to just be so flexible and spontaneous that you're not always predictable. Yeah. But yeah, the healing, like I would say the things that works the best are my osteopath. He does a lot of really great work. The yoga therapy, like to just commit to teaching yoga therapy for a couple of years was the biggest benefit I feel. I don't do it enough anymore. And that's kind of my new aim, is to get somewhere where I'm supported in that, because there's just none of it here. Like people just don't do that. So I need to think about how I'm going to bring that back into my daily routine. And the meditation, like to be able to sit with meditators in a group, that's really, like, I don't recommend meditating on your own.
Okay.
Like there's really, that it's just, there's too much of that, the repetitive thoughts that come in, and without the intervention and the support of the people next to you who are like, we're just going to sit another 2 minutes and then they'll ring the bell and then we can get up and then we walk in silence, that it's really good to have others in your group with you, because when you're alone.
Well, take a look what happened to Brooke Gibson. She was alone meditating when Aquino came in.
Yeah, it's not, it's not something you should do alone. It's, basically you're doing it alone anyway.
Yeah.
Even when you're with other people, nobody has access to your inner world until you express it.
Yeah.
So it's good to have people around that want to do that. And, I have friends who go to prayer, which I also believe is really helpful for a lot of people. One of the healers that I had, she did holographic repatterning, and she introduced me to Oregon. She had a cloud buster. I met her when I lived in Albuquerque, and she had a great story where she had been in a plane wreck the year I was born, and her spine was severed. And I met her and she asked me to transcribe all of her healing tapes, because when she was doing this, they were using like magnetic tapes.
Yeah.
And I transcribed all her healing tapes for her, and I thought, wow, this is a really interesting way to meet somebody, to get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
that must have been what enabled you to heal from your crashes. That must have helped.
Oh, yeah, having other people in my life who've also endured a ridiculous amount of suffering and trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, and come through it and been able to show me, no, that doesn't really matter. What you could focus on is a positive action you could take, just to get into that idea of like, when you don't feel good, let it out, cry, be aware of the fact that you were abused, and seek help, take a positive action, even if that positive action is just drumming. Like if you could just, you don't even have to have a drum, just drum with noise on some furniture or a cardboard box. Like just, positive action can be whatever suits you in that moment, what you're capable of. Because, when you're healing, a lot of times you're not capable of the things people expect from you.
That's right.
And that becomes like that new dance of where's that boundary between the people who say they're supporting you and they're actually just becoming more of a burden to you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like to think that, with my situation, I was always protected. Like I was always given only what I could handle and nothing more. So, in the worst situations, I survived. I was always led away from the things that were going to be really tragic and really terrible.
Yeah. I mean, incredible. I mean, I've developed a much deeper level of respect for you, and I appreciate your having the courage to share what you have with us. It's profound, and but being through what you've been through, I don't understand why are you seeking work? Why don't you just just be why don't you just get on some welfare program and do something from home? I mean, you could still do something.
They won't let me on. I keep trying to tell you this. Like, I have done this, and they're like, you're completely able-bodied.
After what you've been through? After what you've been through?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Why don't you just go crazy and get institutionalized for a while?
Could just go crazy. Yeah. Just start acting crazy.
Yeah, it's not that difficult.
How is that gonna work?
I'm sure they'd believe you. I'm sure they would believe you.
I don't know. I don't see a lot of people who are crazy getting any help either. So it's not it's not a fluid thing. Like, I'm not sure that the organizations that I've reported some of this abuse to aren't part of the problem. Okay. Like, I've been talking to the domestic violence shelter for 8 years, and every time I speak to somebody new, they all direct me back there.
Yeah, but this wasn't because of your boyfriend. The domestic violence was because of your father and mother, right?
It's starting to look more like they are the culprits. Yeah. Like that they have been instigating a lot of this. Yeah. And that's really, that's shameful.
It is.
And it's even more shameful to think about the positions they hold in their community that, you know, they're healthcare providers and they're not even aware.
Well, they're no longer active healthcare providers. I don't think they've been active healthcare providers for a while, right?
I mean, I don't really know. Like it's really, it's a tenuous situation, but there's even like, I know I haven't talked about this, but when I originally came on, my point was to come on and talk about the military stalking. Yeah. And I've never done that, but I have reported it repeatedly and never been issued a full faith and credit order of protection.
Right. Of course not.
No. So that's sort of the thing, is like you're trying to get this help from organizations that are part of the problem.
Yes, thank you. It's just for people to understand what Amy Como might be alluding to, or something very similar, would be the so-called Condor program I've described in the past, where Michael Aquino was introducing me to the fact that the U.S. government has many people who are on welfare who, unlike Amy Como, don't even deserve it. And these are people with no discernible disabilities other than that a lot of them are truly just fat and lazy or something like that, or just people who aggressively pursued it and are found the right advocacy, this kind of crap. But obviously Amy should be on welfare at this point in her life because she's been through so much, and really just I think is at a point where if anyone deserved it, it would be her, and yet she's turned away. But the people who they put on it oftentimes don't deserve it at all. Now, when it comes to getting their money's worth out of these people, one of the things that Aquino showed me was this Project Condor, where the government simply exploited them by telling them, oh, you want to be a true patriot serving your country and taking down the bad guys and be a hero, and yeah, sure, and they'll say, join our Condor program. You're an agent now. You're Agent Condor, you know, and that every one of these fuckers think that they're the Agent Condor, but they're all given a number. And so this number that they're given, they're basically Condor number 20,769 or something like that. But there are literally just ultimately, at the absolute minimum, tens of thousands of people on the Condor program, maybe hundreds of thousands ultimately, like maybe 200,000 was something beyond that was what I was given the impression of by Michael Aquino. But all of these are basically welfare bums, true welfare bums, who are then motivated to terrorize their neighbors or people in their city. They're told that these people are basically the enemy, subversives. They're not patriotic. They're not real Americans like you. And then they'll tell these guys to go key their cars, slam shopping carts into their cars, that kind of shit, slash their tires, terrorize them. Usually it's the automobile is the main target as opposed to the home itself, because they want to be able to get away. But these people sometimes are turned against or targeted onto, because you might ask what the criteria is for their victims. Obviously, it's people like myself, but other times it's just randos, as the government calls them, randomly targeted peoples. They will sometimes turn these people on random Americans. In fact, that would be at least half the cases. Half the time that would be the case. Simply because they're trying to terrorize the American public into psychological submission. That the American public, if they're terrorized and constantly harassed, they will always feel a need for authority figures, for protection, and ultimately the military. So this is one manifestation of military stalking that might be. Is that similar to what's been happening to you throughout your life? Or something deeper and more?
Yeah, there's plenty of examples.
Mm-hmm. And is it generational? Maybe it's because of your heritage. Is it because of your bloodline, like your family?
I don't know. That was an interesting thing that I started looking into when I first got back to Vermont.
Yeah.
Like whether or not there was something like historically, because my family was so secretive, like just very, like I don't have any real relationship with anybody in my family. It's just it's a holiday thing where you just are required to show up for, birthdays and holidays, and there's no, like, nobody actually provides any sympathy, or there's no like when you're with these people, you don't have eye contact. They don't talk about you in a way where you feel like they care. It's just you're there for that amount of time and then you leave. And so them being so closed off and so like unavailable to me made me wonder. And perhaps it is, but I really can't. I can't tell you because like they don't have a real relationship with me. Like my father has a head injury. So he's not ever been somebody to like relate experiences to me. Like he's never, like he did all kinds of stuff, but he never could speak to me on a human level because he just he had a head injury.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was a pharmacist. So who knows? Like who knows what was going on with that? But and then the extended family, even like for whatever reason, like has never been kind to me. Like they're always making it my fault no matter what.
Well, they've never did anything to help you, obviously.
No.
I mean, it's a disgrace.
Anyhow, well, I don't know that they're not receiving the same issue. Like they're not getting the same treatment and being like, why isn't she contacting me to help? I don't know.
I doubt it because none of them wound up in the position you wound up in, as far as I can tell. I
mean, I do have family who's not doing well. I do. Like I do have family who's like not as good as they could be. But what's interesting is we survived some pretty fantastic stuff. Like I do have cousins with, just histories of like being almost out and then coming right back. Like just surviving stuff that like is supernatural and nobody can explain it. So
yeah, well, but,
I do.
Yeah, go on.
I do feel like the family could be a main reason for the fact that wherever I was, no matter what, there was always somebody with a military connection showing up trying to get close to me.
Yeah. Which is always bad news. Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. I mean, because like to me, like it's just a job, right? Like you go in the military and you're taken care of. Like you don't have to get housing.
Oh, absolutely. It's basically take a look at. Take a look at Joe Tai. Joe Tai is someone who is obviously brain injured. He had a son, which should never have been allowed. And because the son, it doesn't matter that Joe Tai tried to tell him not to go into the military. His son went into the military basically to get the parenting he could never get from Joe Tai. Of course, that's not the solution, and it's not quality parenting in either case. But in terms of this is what people go into the military for, is they never have to grow up ever. They're just a stunted soul the rest of their fucking lives. They never need to mature, develop, or do anything. They are forever in a welfare state, cared for in every respect. Free medical, just endless supply of benefits, and free shelter, always social programs to aid you. This is why, just so people understand the crisis point where we're at with this, as I've mentioned before, the Veterans Administration is the largest healthcare system on Earth. The United States Veterans Veterans Administration is the largest healthcare system on earth, larger than the healthcare system for the entire population of communist China. It's because we have so many veterans of so many wars that it's untenable, and we've got to put an end to it. The veterans do not deserve this. They don't deserve all this healthcare and all these freebies. They've got to earn a living like the rest of us. It's just appalling, and it's a crime. It's criminal. All that money spent on veterans could go to children and raise better people that wouldn't feel the need to join the military. I, of course, suggest we start a draft and get a higher quality military through that. But when it comes to, my ideas, they can wait. They can wait. Right now, the important thing people need to know is we can't afford to keep taking care of these parasites, these leeches, for the rest of their lives, for a few years spent in the goddamn military, or even less than a year. These people just join the military, they get out very quickly. Very few serve their full service term, and they get treated free the rest of their lives. You pay for that, but you get no medical care whatsoever. It's a crime. So, yeah, these people are then indoctrinated, and they're basically used and turned on other people. A good example, that Pac-1 Morales, son of a bitch, who decided he loved Jameson Reese so much he was going to pursue Jameson Reese romantically, and it got him nowhere but being accused of being an asset of my own. But he stated outright, oh yeah, I was in boot camp, and there was a time we all just went blank. We were staring at the screen, told to watch a movie. None of us remembered what it was when we came to again, basically returned to consciousness. So he was confessing there was a period of time in boot camp, something which I never experienced, where he was brought in to watch a film and everybody blanked out, and then none of them could cross-reference what happened. None of them remembered what happened. Okay, something obviously happened that he was mind-fucked the rest of his life and rendered non-functional, not necessarily in the period of time, but it could be, because he doesn't remember how long it was. Nobody remembers how long it was that they were there in his boot camp. So something like that could have lasted 10 hours, 12 hours. And during that time, these guys could have been fucked with beyond ways you wouldn't even begin to comprehend. So then they send them out into the civilian world, and they just fuck people over, because that's what they're programmed to do, for the same reasons that Project Condor exists. So the first thing you've got to do when you meet somebody from today's military is turn around and walk away. There's no benefits that can come from them. Maybe you have some exceptional experience, which is different. Speaking to the public in general, there's always exceptions to every rule, but in general, it's just bad news. So back to Amy with that. I don't know, does that bring up any other thoughts?
Yeah, so I have one friend that I've grown up with. He's 7 years older than me, and he was in the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah, jumping junkies. That's what they were called in Vietnam, jumping junkies. Go on.
Taking acid and jumping out of planes. Yeah. That's his line. That's what he says about it. Taking acid and jumping out of planes. Oh. Yeah, and he's, hot mess. But I still care about him. I still try to talk to him. But we have interesting exchanges where he'll talk to me. It'll been years, and all of a sudden his phone will send me 40 messages that were delayed, in some secret outbox in his email or whatever.
Oh, welcome to my fucking world. Welcome to my fucking world.
I know. So it's we know that it's just it's dangerous no matter what we say or where we go. And he always wants to marry me, and I'm always that's enough. Stop it.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Nemo, before you make coffee, if you're still here, say good morning to everyone, because I might be winding down the transmission soon. and saving
Okay.
my real monologue for probably next Sunday, because Wednesday theoretically we're gonna have George all night. So so go ahead and do say your good morning to everyone, as if I'm going to end the show, because I probably will soon. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Please support Douglas. Buy his books and donate to him if you can.
Bless you.
I won't be long. I'm just going to quickly make a coffee.
Understood.
You're going to be in private chat if you go off?
No, I'll definitely
Okay.
retreat into the day. Joe Ty's
All
trying
right.
to call, but I'm not going to accept it. And
Poor him.
yeah, what was that?
I said poor him.
Yes, thank you. It is. Yeah, I'm just not in the mood. I'm just. So
Understood.
yeah, thank
You
you.
need a break too. It's, like you can't, the only thing you can do is enjoy your life.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all you can do. If things don't feel good, if like you're internally conflicted
Yeah.
about anything, you can't let that take over.
Yeah.
Like you need to pivot. You need to get into a space where you're enjoying the people you're around, where you don't always have to report. Like that's the other thing about this, like constantly having to report the new abuses.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, that's not how I want to spend my time. And it's not productive, because the agencies or the people that you're reporting to haven't been held accountable for the fact that they've done nothing.
Thank you.
So that's, that I think that's really where we're at. I think we all know that like nobody wants 50% of the budget of the US government to go to the military. Like that's ridiculous. We
Thank
know
you.
that that's the problem.
It's over 50%. Yes, it's beyond ridiculous.
I know.
It's just.
I know. So I don't feel bad about not working, because then I'm not paying into that shit.
Thank you.
But, you do have to enjoy your life. Like you have to find things that you love to do, and you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so, I am appreciative that you have offered yourself in this way as a communicator.
Thank you.
To everybody, and you don't give up. You're always here. I'm excited to hear what George has to say about the UK, because I feel like they're like one of the pillars. Like when the three pillars go, then we're coming into a new time.
Yeah.
Like the UK, the US, Vatican, those pillars are crumbling. And so we're making new space. We're making new joys within our communities, not just for ourselves, but other people. Because that, like you say, like the way they come at you with the condor.
Yeah.
When they come at you like that, and and you see, and you can say it, and you can respond, and and you see, and you say it, and you respond, and you do that repeatedly, eventually other people start to recognize it too.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're at that point where like there is a recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really great. Like I said, like I don't feel unsafe anymore. Whereas when I first started having all this terrible stuff happen to me, and really it's meant to drive you insane and meant to make you suicide yourself.
It is. It truly is. And
like the personal life abuses, where they abuse you within your personal life. They take out the people you love and care about.
Yes.
That is meant to make you kill yourself. And the only way to fight that is to stay alive and to like what you do.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's my thought on that.
It's an important thought, and thank you for sharing it with us. Well, I love you dearly, honey. And what I'm going to do is just remind people of this. I'm going to remind people, of course, that the death toll has reached at least 93. Probably it's going to reach 100. But the Maui fires are now the deadliest American blaze in 100 years. The campfire in California, which was named after, it didn't start with a campfire. It was after the location known as Camp in California, Camp California. The campfire in California devastated the town of Paradise, and it killed at least I don't know, 80 some odd people, if I remember correctly, but definitely the death toll from the wildfires in Maui rose to at least 93 yesterday, surpassing California's 2018 Camp Fire as the deadliest wildfire in modern American history. So it's been pretty bad out there. Like I said, there's been a contact out of the past trying to basically worm their way back into my life. Was not Judith Ager, just so people understand that. But I was asked questions about her. I'll try and talk about this to Holly Kaditis Kiefer personally before I speak to the public about it, if I speak to the public about it at all. But such having been said, I guess the most important thing to emphasize right now to everyone is that today is National Financial Awareness Day. I'm going to wind down the call the sooner to get over to the estate, start teaching the Blood Boys about this, get them ready for a field trip to the San Francisco Mint. I do want people to appreciate the fact that on this Fiscal Awareness Day, I need your help. Our dear man T. Tank Berry in the chat said, God bless Douglas and Team Dietrich. He also mentioned something earlier to Amy Como. He was saying, what up, Acid Kick? And he said he understands the family disconnect. This he was directing specifically at Amy. I want people to know that T. Tank Berry's great-grandfather fought in World War I, did the exact same thing that my legal father's uncle did. I have a great uncle from my legal father, George Dietrich's side, who fought in World War I. And like T. Tank Berry's great-grandfather, they were both machine gunners, which was a very specific position and very rare. Machine gun in those days was a very heavy weapon. And the man manning the machine gun was a man who was killing potentially hundreds of people at a time, sweeping his machine gun back and forth over the fields as the enemy approached. So these were men who killed and came home with tallies of hundreds of lives taken, if not thousands, ultimately throughout the war. Men charging machine guns, 60,000 would die in a single day in World War I. So when it comes to these men, in the case of my legal father's uncle, that man died. He died on the front in World War I. Then that's how the family truly became fragmented and alienated. There was a money issue with who inherited his legacy, his monetary, his resources, and the family went to war over it. My father, who was the youngest of all the brothers, came out the biggest loser, and was thereafter never given any help by the Dietrich family. I don't consider them any people that I care about in any real sense. I don't hate them. I don't have any animosity towards them, but I certainly don't owe them any fucking favors. And as for the when it comes to the situation with the T. Tank Berry's own great-grandfather, that guy came home, was a blacksmith in San Francisco, and drank himself to death. Basically drank himself to death. So T. Tank Berry and I have a lot of things in common. So he's a good man, and as I said, came to my door, caught me just as I had returned home and was decompressing and looking my worst, and putting out the food bin for today's Meals on Wheels delivery. Anyhow, like I said, Acid Kick 96 says thank you to Amy Como, and T. Tank Berry gives his blessings. With that, we'll pretty much sign off for today. Aristides says hello, basically by getting back into the call that was on last night, and letting us know that he drifted off. Understandable. So that being said,
Before you sign off, can I quickly plug
Sure.
in my Odyssey channels?
oh please take your time, please.
Yeah. To everyone, please check out and subscribe to the 3 channels I made on the Odyssey website. The first one is DDD Archive 1. It's Douglas Dietrich's older content, and DDD Archive 2, which has Douglas Dietrich's newer content. And of course, the third channel is named El Nemo, my channel.
Yes, and they're all worthy channels to subscribe to. Please do so. And hello and return to Aristides. I got his notification via the Skype. So blessings to him and a blessed day. So we'll close off with Amy Como. Amy, honey, say good morning to everyone and whatever message you want to leave them with. Michelle says good morning as well, by the way, and say hello to her while you're delivering.
Okay. Yeah, it's always great to hear from Douglas's crew, and I do want to say thank you, Joe Tai, for what he did as far as investigating how to fix the endometriosis. That was really a gift for me. So I know that he might have a head injury, but he's still a valuable person for me anyway.
By the way, I need to
Have a
hear
good
that.
week.
I need to hear that, and I now feel bad that I didn't bring him on, but I really
It's fine.
don't regret
Catch
it.
up. You can always contact me.
Go on. Yes.
No, I mean, does the public need to hear everything we talk about? Like,
True.
it's fine to have some private conversations. It's good.
True. Go on. Yeah, so go on with whatever else you want to bring to our attention, honey.
I'm okay with you signing off. I know you're overdue your 12 hours, so I'm okay with that. And I am excited about Wednesday
Okay.
when George is on.
Excellent. Hopefully you can join us. I would approve. I hope you can. And so my love to all who support myself, and I certainly need your financial assistance. This is for potable water to carry me through, and certainly vampires need water just like human fucking beings. Okay, we need more than just blood. We also need water. So there you have that. And all right.
Best wishes to you all.
Yeah, and for anybody who's skeptical, do a little research on vampire bats. They are mammals after all. And yeah, they drink fucking water as well as blood, okay? So, just remember that. So, all that being said, my love to all who care for me, and with that, we'll close for the day. Going to end the stream and close the call. All right, let's see if any more messages have come up. El Nemo's given his wave to T-Tank Berry. If anybody wants your saying to be published, get it in there now so it can upload with the video. Acid Kick put in 3 vampire bats. That's cute. Okay, with that, we're going to press the end stream button. Here we are. It's a triple redundancy process. And 3 buttons to press. And, okay.